Chapter 832. The void in the surrounding space hadn't yet formed. But the moment Ning Cheng punched out, everything stopped. As Ning Cheng's fist momentum rolled up, the void created by Old Man Kong He's hand disappeared completely. Ning Cheng didn't continue. If he continued, this Old Man Kong He could only wait for death. Laws of time. Old Man Kong He exclaimed. Ning Cheng, a young man who didn't seem to pose any threat to him, had actually displayed the laws of time. Even he couldn't touch the edge of the law of time. At this moment, he finally understood why Ning Cheng dared to take out the space crystal in this place. This fellow did not fear him at all. A cultivator who had come into contact with the laws of time, saying that his cultivation was lower than Kong He would never believe it. Lan Yi, who was struggling in the empty space, had just felt her surroundings lighten when she heard Old Man Kong He speak the words laws of time. If hearing about space crystals was enough to shock her, then when she heard Ning Cheng use the laws of time, she almost thought that she had heard it wrong. As a life and death realm warrior from a big martial school, Lan Yi was naturally not ignorant. She knew very well how powerful and elusive the laws of time were. At least, she had never heard of anyone comprehending the laws of time before. No wonder this Ning Cheng didn't care about taking out the Eternal Emperor Continuance Pill. It turned out that he was such a powerful cultivator. You're not my opponent. If I wanted to kill you, it wouldn't take me even half an incense stick worth of time. Ning Cheng stared at Kong He and spoke with a cold voice. Old Man Kong He sighed, yes, I'm not your opponent. It wouldn't take you even half an incense stick worth of time to kill me. Ning Cheng looked at the array formation restrictions on the opposite side of the public square and spoke, using such a shameless method to collect materials, it should be that silver-robed man, right? Were you coerced by him? Old Man Kong He gave out a sigh after hearing Ning Cheng's words. I didn't expect your spiritual consciousness to penetrate the shielding array restrictions on this public square. That's right. I'm not the one who collected these materials. But I'm not being coerced. I'm making a deal with him. After speaking, Old Man Kong He raised his hand and waved. The array formation restrictions behind the public square slowly opened up like a curtain. Ning Cheng was able to use his spiritual consciousness to pass through the restrictions placed behind the public square. Not only was his spiritual consciousness too powerful, but his understanding of the Tao of array formations was also incomparably powerful. In the face of such a person, Kong He simply didn't have the qualifications to bargain. Rather than waiting for others to punch him away, he might as well take the initiative. After the restriction was removed, an even larger square appeared. In the middle of this public square, two giant starry sky battleships were parked. Even if one did not understand anything about starry sky battleships, one would still be able to tell that these two starry sky battleships were powerful. Inside one of the starry sky battleships, a silver-haired man in silver robes slowly walked over. His expression was ugly, and his body exuded a strong aura. This silver-haired man had a high nose bridge and blue eyes. In Ning Cheng's view, he looked somewhat similar to a Westerner. Kong He, why didn't you ask for my permission? Why did you bring others to this place? The silver-robed man hadn't even arrived in front of Old Man Kong He when he spoke up in an unhappy tone. Kong He showed a helpless smile and said, Fu Si, I feel helpless because you took someone else's things. Kong He truly felt helpless. When Ning Cheng's space crystal arrived, Kong He had said that he could take this material, but only if he helped someone craft a battleship. Otherwise, he couldn't take this material. But his partner, Furs, didn't care at all. He wanted the materials, and he wasn't willing to help refine the battleship. Is this space crystal yours? The silver-haired man named Furs glanced at Ning Cheng and spoke with an indifferent tone. Old Man Kong He remained silent. If Furs knew that this young man had used a laws of time-related spirit technique, he probably wouldn't have acted so arrogantly. Ning Cheng smiled, you're right. This space crystal is mine. You put away my space crystal. Are you planning to wait for me to come out, then stop me and search my body for more space crystals? Furs also laughed when he heard Ning Cheng's words, you're good. It's easy to talk to smart people. That's what I meant. You shouldn't have taken out the space crystal. After saying that, First deliberately looked at old man Kong He and said, Kong He, it's not that I don't want to give you face today, but I have to take away this person's space crystal. Don't stop me. Kong He shook his head silently. Even if he wanted to stop him, could he stop him? After Furs finished speaking, he waved his hand, and the entire space around him turned into a wood-attributed aura. The next moment, the space around him slowly hardened, as if it wanted to solidify completely. Even Ning Cheng's domain, under the influence of this wood-attributed aura, began to solidify. Ning Cheng had entered the celestial scryer tower before. Therefore, when Furs made his move, he immediately understood that this was a wood-attributed spirit technique. As long as there was a wood-attributed spirit technique, this wood-attributed spirit technique could pose a threat. Facing Furs, who was slightly weaker than Kong He, Ning Cheng had 100 ways to kill him. Kong He controlled the laws of space. Therefore, this wood-attributed spirit technique had no effect on him. Lan Yi's cultivation was too low, so she ended up imprisoned once again. But this time, it wasn't the emptiness of a spatial hole, but a kind of suppression caused by the solidification of space. Ning Cheng was just about to bring out the time will to sweep away Furs' wood-attributed solidification of space when the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King attached to his wrist began to jump. Since the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King wanted to fight, Ning Cheng naturally felt happy. The moment it received Ning Cheng's instructions, the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King stretched out countless branches. These branches wrapped around the space around the two people in a flash. Furs hadn't even used his wood-attributed spirit technique to solidify space when the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King sucked away the endless wood-attributed aura. The space around them instantly became smooth, and Lan Yi took in a comfortable breath before quickly retreating. Just now, this wood-attributed spirit technique had locked onto her. Not only could she not breathe, but she couldn't even circulate her celestial essence. Facing this kind of power, she didn't want to get trapped again. Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King. Furs instantly recognized the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King, and his eyes immediately shone with a green light. The Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King was too important to his family. What would happen if he could take this Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King for himself? As Furs thought of this, wood-attributed Dao Charm poured into his wood-attributed spirit technique to solidify space one after another. At the same time, he threw out a black net. He wanted to capture Ning Cheng alive and ask him where the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King came from. As Furs' wood-attributed Dao Charm continued to pour in, the surrounding spatial shackles grew harder and harder. Ning Cheng understood at a glance that the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King couldn't block it. It wasn't that the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King couldn't block it, but that the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King's grade wasn't high enough. With a wave of his hand, he put away the Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King. Then, one time will after another blasted out. The solidified wood-attributed space, in front of Ning Cheng's time wheel, turned into nothingness. It couldn't even block it for a moment. After the first time will blasted through the solidified space, Ning Cheng's domain directly tore through the surrounding wood-attributed solidified space. Bang bang bang. The time wheel, which completely tore through the surrounding solidified space, slammed into Furs' black net. Before the black net could even fall, a tear appeared on it. The time wheel that followed immediately tore the black net into a mess. Ka. Poof. The powerful wood-attributed protective domain in front of Furs finally shattered under the time wheel after time wheel. But before Furs could bring out a more powerful means, the next time wheel directly turned Furs' lower body into nothingness. Stop, I'm a member of the Fusey clan, you can't kill me. Realizing that he was not Ning Cheng's opponent, and that the surrounding space was under Ning Cheng's control, Fusey truly panicked. Didn't Kong He say that there were no more than 10 people stronger than him in this part of the universe? Why did such a young powerhouse suddenly appear? Ning Cheng sneered. So what if it was the Furs clan? Wanting to kill him and hoping that he would stop. Dream on. As for the Furs clan, he had never even heard of it. Another 2 time wheels blasted out, and furs could no longer beg for mercy. Except for a ring, Ning Cheng blasted his entire body into nothingness. Just as Ning Cheng was about to put away the ring, he saw a black light roll up the ring and disappear into the sky. Even Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness couldn't catch up with this black light. So fast. Ning Cheng stared in the direction where the black light disappeared in amazement and frowned slightly. After a while, Ning Cheng turned to old man Kong He and asked, "Who is this person? Where did he come from?" Old man Kong He shook his head, "I don't know. His cultivation method is very strange. You easily defeated him, but he most likely didn't put you in his eyes. He came here to find me for cooperation and asked me to help refine the most powerful Starry Sky battleship. Does he also understand Starry Sky battleships?" Ning Cheng asked in surprise. "He doesn't understand it, but he has a flame that can melt void-returning sifting metal. I also want to refine such a top-grade Starry Sky battleship myself. Unfortunately, I don't have a flame that can melt void-returning sifting metal, so I can only cooperate with him." Kong He replied. Ning Cheng pointed to the 2 leviathans in front of him. "The top-grade Starry Sky battleship you mentioned, are these 2? Kong He nodded. "Yes, this Starry Sky battleship is better than a flight-type weapon in that it ignores ordinary laws. Even if you pass through a world of various laws, you won't lose the ability to fly because of the restrictions of the laws. If I want to leave this place, I also need such a battleship. I'm responsible for refining it, while he provides the void-returning sifting metal and the melting flame." "What's a void-returning sifting metal? What level of flame does it need to melt it?" Ning Cheng asked in doubt. He really didn't know anything about void-returning sifting metal. Kong He didn't answer Ning Cheng. Instead, he walked up to one of the battleships and pointed to a piece of cold black iron. "This is void-returning sifting metal. Flames below grade 6 Starry Sky can't melt this material at all." Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell on this piece of black iron and immediately understood that Kong He was right. His celestial river flame couldn't melt this material before it advanced further. However, he quickly focused his attention on this Starry Sky battleship. This Starry Sky battleship looked just too perfect. The hidden radium light cannons and flowing sky cannons weren't important to Ning Cheng. More importantly, this Starry Sky battleship was a combination of technology and artifact crafting methods. Although Ning Cheng hadn't tried it himself, he knew that this thing could ignore ordinary forbidden space restrictions. Moreover, it could also ignore any kind of spiritual power restriction. Chapter 833. No matter how much of a genius Ning Cheng was, without a few thousand years of cultivation, he would not be able to enter the sect. Think about it, how long would it take to become a king refiner? Even with sufficient materials, it would still take countless years, right? If you weren't a king refiner of the inferior artifact, you wouldn't be able to learn his things. Since old man Kong He said so, it meant that he agreed to help him complete this Starry Sky battleship. Therefore, it wouldn't be a problem to mention sifting orchid at this time. Lan Yi wanted to go back and enter seclusion to advance to the eternal realm. But now that Ning Cheng spoke, she quickly took the opportunity to leave. Ning Cheng didn't quite understand Kong He's meaning, but he vaguely understood it. That was to refine the same thing or many materials. However, once the materials were limited, the space for accepting materials would be much smaller, and some of the best materials would be missed. Ning Cheng felt his heart move. He came from a planet with a low-level technological civilization. Not to mention that his cultivation had already reached the eternal realm and he also possessed a Starry Sky sea of consciousness. Even with his innate talent and understanding, very few people could compare to him. Or else he wouldn't have such accomplishments in the most complicated array path. Old man Kong He glanced at the pile of materials he had selected and said, "You do have a lot of materials, but if you want me to help you complete this top-grade battleship, it's still far from enough. As for repairing this kind of low-leveled battle disc, it would only cause me to lose face, as such I will definitely not do it." Kong He glanced at Ning Cheng. "Do you have a spirit rank flame?" Ning Cheng had already used up a lot of these materials, but there were still many more here. Unfortunately, Ning Cheng wasn't an ordinary person. He was a top-grade weapon emperor, and his artifact crafting techniques weren't any worse than Kong He's. It's just that Kong He didn't know about this. If Kong He knew that Ning Cheng was a peak-grade weapon emperor, he would have never let Ning Cheng enter his cabin. This was the result of his countless years of accumulation and painstaking efforts. Even if he helped Ning Cheng refine the battleship for free, he would not agree to let Ning Cheng learn from him. After Ning Cheng entered the cabin, he came to know just how many things were inside the cabin. This wooden house was basically a miniature spatial magic treasure, and there were hundreds of millions of jade slips inside. From the looks of it, the cultivators who brought the materials to Kong He to refine the battleship had made a mistake. The better the materials, the better the chance. This Kong He truly had an eccentric personality. If that's the case, then forget it. For this kind of thing, it was not in Ning Cheng's character to beg Kong He. Pil Rice Celestial River isn't the only one who can repair the Techno-Battle Disc. Ning Cheng didn't expect Kong He to reject him. He immediately spoke up, "Master Kong He, I still have some space crystals here, as long as..." Ning Cheng, on seeing old man Kong He's eyes glowing, understood that things were about to end. Therefore, he quickly struck while the iron was hot, "Master Kong He, do you think these things are enough? I have another kind of flame that might be able to help." In just over a year's time, Ning Cheng had completely swept through all of these jade strips, without missing even a single one. Not only that, but because of his cultivation method, he also found some problems in the jade strips left behind by Kong He. In order to completely sort out these things, Ning Cheng did not leave the wooden house. Instead, he went into seclusion to sort out what he had learned, while at the same time engraving these questions into some new jade strips. Ning Cheng was very unhappy in his heart. "Since you do not agree to it, then why did you pick out my materials? If you want to take my materials for free, then even you, Kong He, can't do it." Ning Cheng wanted to ask Kong He for help and spoke up helplessly, "Yes, sifting orchid is very important to me. But no matter how much it costs, I have to repair it." Kong He shook his head, "You don't understand. There are more than trillions of materials in the starry sky. What I say isn't necessarily the best, but what I see is the best." Ning Cheng felt overjoyed and quickly took out the broken battle disc sifting orchid and said, "Master Kong He, I want to ask you to help me repair this battle disc. You don't have enough materials to refine this battleship." Kong He spoke up with a straightforward tone. "Since you don't have a god-grade flame, then don't talk about helping. The void-returning sifting metal here has already been melted down and refined. I don't need your help now." Old man Kong He spoke up calmly. If it weren't for Ning Cheng's strength, he wouldn't have wanted Ning Cheng to stay in his workplace. Kong He looked at the broken sifting orchid in front of him and spoke up with an unhappy tone, "You want me to repair this low-level thing? Master Kong He, since the materials you need aren't necessarily the best, why don't you just tell me what you need?" Ning Cheng asked with some confusion. In Ning Cheng's view, the things he learned about alchemy, array formations, artifacts, talismans, etc., were countless times more complicated than learning about science and technology. Since Kong He agreed to let him learn about it, why would he still ask this old man? Kong He also said that he would study it for a few days, but Ning Cheng didn't care about a few days. Fortunately, Kong He's classification was very clear, from low to high, layer by layer. Ning Cheng didn't take out the jade strips to check them. He knew that with so many jade strips to check, he wouldn't be able to finish reading them even after hundreds of years. His spiritual consciousness fell directly on the first jade strip. Soon, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness moved from the first jade strip to the second jade strip, the third jade strip, the fourth jade strip. "What's a god-grade flame?" Ning Cheng asked in confusion. His celestial river flame was at starry sky grade 5, and it hadn't advanced yet. Could it be? After saying this, Ning Cheng raised his hand and was about to put away the materials on the ground when Kong He spoke up at this time, "Everything I've learned and a bit of experience is in the opposite room. If you can study it in that room for a few days, maybe after a few days, you can repair your sifting orchid. Even if it's this top-grade starry sky battleship, you can still give it a try." The condition is your materials. Of course, if you don't agree, you can leave. One more thing, you can't copy my jade strips, nor can you take them away. Otherwise, they will shatter. Ning Qing felt overjoyed, then many thanks, Master Kong He. I don't know if there are any parts of this battleship that haven't been completed yet. I'm willing to help Master. Ning Qing didn't care about it. After putting away the rest of the materials, he went straight into a small wooden house across the public square. Thinking of the possibility of leaving Jiangzhou Star, Ning Cheng's heart started to burn with passion for this huge battleship. Master Kong He, Fu Si is courting death. He won't be alive to enjoy this battleship. I want to buy it from Master. I agree. Ning Cheng's words had just fallen when old man Kong He raised his hand and took away the materials he had picked out. Ning Cheng didn't ask anything. He had already guessed a few things in his heart. The God-grade flame that Kong He mentioned should be the name of a grade 6 starry sky flame. Ning Cheng had the void shimmering light crystal and the nirvana heart. It was only a matter of time before his celestial river flame advanced to a God-grade flame. I'm sorry, Fu Si and I have a deal, but I don't have a deal with you. I didn't agree to help you refine this high-level battleship. You can take your battleship, but it doesn't mean that I want to help you improve this battleship. Old man Kong He's tone remained calm. Ning Cheng controlled the laws of time, and he wasn't Ning Cheng's opponent. But as a top-notch master of science and technology and an artifact crafting grandmaster, he had his own pride. In just half a day, Ning Cheng had completely immersed himself in the sea of knowledge contained within these jade strips. It was exactly as Kong He had expected. Sometimes, knowledge was a kind of poison. Once you fell into it, you would start searching for the root. Kong He expected that once Ning Cheng fell into it, he wouldn't give up easily. Blue wave profound root, flying star true stone, chop iron glazed stone, thunder firmament crystal, extreme fire silkworm gold. Kong He's eyes immediately lit up when he saw Ning Cheng's things. At the same time, he quickly picked out dozens of materials from Ning Cheng's pile. Was that really the case? Ning Cheng had previously thought that Kong He was willing to help Lan Yi refine the battleship because Lan Yi wanted to teach Lan Yi a lesson. Or maybe Fu Si, the one he killed, wanted to teach Lan Yi a lesson. Ning Cheng didn't expect that Kong He would really take a fancy to Lan Yi's materials. In other words, it wasn't that the higher the grade of the materials, the better, but the more suitable, the better. Old man Kong He spoke with a calm voice, these are your spoils of war. If you want to take them away, you don't have to tell me. Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness and comprehension ability were just too powerful. The hundreds of millions of jade strips in this room flowed through his sea of consciousness like flowing water. If Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the jade strips one by one in the beginning, then Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through thousands of jade strips at a time. Every time a jade strip flowed away, it would leave behind the essence within. After Lan Yi left, Ning Cheng waved his hand, and piles of materials appeared in front of Kong He. These materials were his spoils of war. Whether it was 9 jewels Starry Sky Emperor Shengguan Fei, or Hong Luan, or the spoils of war from Traceless Immortal Pond, they were all precious materials. Seeing Lan Yi's embarrassed face, Ning Cheng quickly spoke up, Dao friend Lan Yi, if you have nothing special, please go back first. I'll discuss it with Master Kong He. He had prepared these jade strips for old man Kong He. Ning Cheng felt that since he had learned so many good things, he could carve his understanding into jade strips and give them to Kong He as a reward. Moreover, the introductory steps in his jade strips were quite simple. As long as one could learn the basics of artifact crafting, it would be impossible for ordinary people to understand everything. After talking to himself, Kong He directly entered one of the battleships and continued to improve his battleship. The reason why he said that wasn't because he looked down on Ning Cheng, but because the things he left behind were different from ordinary technology. His things were a fusion of technology and starry sky artifact crafting. It could also be considered as opening up a new path. It was because he fancied Ning Cheng's materials. Otherwise, even if he knew that Ning Qing couldn't learn his things, he wouldn't have let Ning Qing enter that wooden house. Kong He smiled, study it for a few days. I hope you can come out after 1,000 years. No, you'll have to come out after 2 years. Because after 2 years, my things will follow me into the void. You came to me for something else, right? Just when Ning Qing didn't know what this old man Kong He's attitude was, this old man Kong He took the initiative to speak up. Senior Kong He, I have a chance to craft a battleship. I want to give this opportunity to Brother Ning. Lan Yi, who stood on the side, interjected. Chapter 834. Ning Qing hadn't even finished engraving the jade strip when he felt the space around him fluctuating. He immediately rushed out of the cabin, and the next moment, the cabin turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the void. Did the cabin escape into the void? Ning Qing quickly looked back and saw that only one of the 2 huge starry sky battleships on the public square was still there, while the other had disappeared without a trace. Ning Qing quickly rushed to the battleship belonging to him and took a look. The battleship hadn't been touched, and everything inside was intact. Apart from old man Kong He and his battleship, the cabin filled with information had disappeared from the public square. Ning Qing had sunk into the deduction of the jade strip inside the cabin, so he naturally didn't think about anything else. But now that he relaxed, he immediately understood what was going on. Old man Kong He didn't have a good heart to let him study the technological information inside the cabin. The information inside was a fusion of technology and artifact crafting. Apart from him, a weapon emperor, how many people could fully comprehend the information inside the cabin in 2 years? Even if a weapon emperor went in, without his powerful sea of consciousness and comprehension ability, he wouldn't be able to fully comprehend it in 2 years, right? In other words, if an ordinary person entered the cabin, Kong He wouldn't have been able to comprehend the information inside before the cabin was swept away by him. Kong He didn't know that Ning Qing was a weapon emperor, let alone the strength of his sea of consciousness. He thought that Ning Qing, like others, wouldn't be able to comprehend even 1/10,000th of the information in just 2 years. That's why he let Ning Qing enter the cabin. After 2 years, Kong He's battleship was completed, and Kong He left this place on the battleship. Since the cabin was his heart and soul, it naturally followed him into the void. After understanding this, Ning Qing almost raised his middle finger at Kong He in disdain. Fortunately, although Kong He was stingy with his things, he didn't feel disgusted. At least he didn't sweep away the 2 battleships. If Kong He had swept away the 2 battleships, Ning Qing wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. After understanding Kong He's thoughts, Ning Qing no longer thought of returning Kong He's understanding. Ning Qing didn't stay here to finish the nearly completed top-grade Starry Sky battleship. Instead, he put away the Starry Sky battleship and left Kong He Emperor Mountain. With his current ability, he could complete this Starry Sky battleship independently. As for Sifting Orchid, he could perfectly restore his original appearance. After returning to Stately River Star, he could slowly do it. Pill Rice Celestial River was the most famous technological celestial river among the 4 grand starry skies. Most of the planets in this technological celestial river were engaged in production related to science and technology. The most popular products were naturally radium weapons and various types of battleships, as well as planetary space-locking devices. Grand Nurong Star was the most powerful starry sky battleship production planet in Pill Rice Celestial River. In fact, in Pill Rice Celestial River, the starry sky battleships produced by the other planets were also in short supply. The planets in the Pill Rice Celestial River were not 100% technologically advanced, at least not the Sifting Forest Star. The Sifting Forest Star had a large number of starry sky sects. These sects, like the rest of the starry sky planets, mainly focused on cultivating within the starry sky. As for technological means, they only assisted in cultivation. The Rainbow Fall Sword sect was not a big faction in the Sifting Forest Star, rather, it could only be regarded as a very ordinary faction. Even the sect master, Xian Chanqiu, was only a heaven realm cultivator. The most powerful expert in the sect was Elder Yu Bo, who had never left the sect. It was said that he was already at the late stage of the life and death realm, but it was just a rumor. Although Ning Cheng had never been to the Rainbow Fall Sword sect before, he could judge from Feng Kai's weakness against Liang Qiurui that the Rainbow Fall Sword sect wasn't a powerful sect in the Sifting Forest Star. But now that Ning Cheng arrived at the Rainbow Fall Sword sect, he felt that his thoughts might have been wrong. The Rainbow Fall Sword sect wasn't small. At least, the territory occupied by the Rainbow Fall Sword sect was quite good. The starry sky spirit chi here was rich, and the surrounding mountains formed a natural defensive array. What surprised Ning Cheng even more was that the entrance of the Rainbow Fall Sword sect was bustling with people coming and going. If it were a makeshift market, Ning Cheng wouldn't have found it strange. But as a sect, all kinds of miscellaneous people came and went. Yet, the two disciples guarding the entrance didn't care about it at all, which made Ning Cheng a little puzzled. Ning Cheng followed the many cultivators coming and going into the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's defensive array. Sure enough, no one came to ask him. Not even a single spiritual consciousness fell on him. Had the Rainbow Fall Sword sect opened up to this extent? Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness directly swept into the sect. Soon, he saw the Rainbow Fall Sword Stone. This Rainbow Fall Sword Stone was much bigger than the sword stones in Graceful Star Mainland. Ning Cheng didn't know if Graceful Star Mainland had imitated the sword stones here, or if the sword stones here were imitations of Graceful Star Mainland. The sword stone was the public square of the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. At this time, the public square was filled with countless cultivators. In the middle of the public square, there was also a dueling platform. The dueling platform was sealed by restrictions, and two young male cultivators were fighting a life and death battle on the dueling platform. Sitting directly above the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's sword stone were some of the leaders. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out slightly and found several eternal cultivators here. Was the Rainbow Fall Sword sect this powerful? Why did they have so many eternal cultivators? Ning Cheng initially thought that this was a duel within the sect. But when he saw another male cultivator directly kill a male cultivator on the dueling platform, he understood that it shouldn't be a dueling platform, but a life and death duel platform. Round 7, Rainbow Fall Sword sect's Shang Yongzhan falls, Constellation sect's Fu Su wins. With the announcement, Ning Cheng realized that Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples fought against disciples from other sects, and Rainbow Fall Sword sect lost. Ning Cheng felt that something was wrong. He pulled a celestial shatterer cultivator next to him and asked, "Friend, I just came here. May I ask why the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples fought against the Constellation sect's disciples?" This celestial shatterer cultivator felt that Ning Cheng's cultivation was higher than his. So, he didn't dare to neglect and replied, "Friend, you're wrong. It's not a fight between the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples and the Constellation sect's disciples. Rather, it's a fight between the disciples of Rainbow Fall Sword sect, Constellation sect, Scarlet Cloud faction, Green Feather Spirit Religion, Void Border Gate, Universal Development sect, and Green Min Mountain." Then why? Ning Cheng felt even more strange. Since it was a fight between 7 sects, why would the battlefield be at the Rainbow Fall Sword sect? The celestial shatterer cultivator whispered, "I heard that Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples, Liang Yi and Feng Kai, joined forces to kill Universal Development sect's disciple, Liang Qiurui. Since Universal Development sect came, Rainbow Fall Sword sect wanted to compensate Universal Development sect. Universal Development sect said that the treasure taken by Feng Kai was extraordinary and asked Rainbow Fall Sword sect to give up the Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm." What kind of place is the Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm? Ning Cheng asked with a frown. "It's the only cultivation mystic realm of my Rainbow Fall Sword sect. It's also the source of my Rainbow Fall Sword sect's starry sky spirit grasses. This group of people is too shameless. They just want to snatch it." A teeth-gnashing voice rang out beside Ning Cheng. Hearing this voice, the celestial shatterer cultivator, who had just explained to Ning Cheng, quickly squeezed into the crowd and stopped answering Ning Cheng's questions. "Are you also from Rainbow Fall Sword sect?" Ning Cheng looked at the young woman in front of him and asked. This young woman's eyes were filled with hatred. She was dressed in a snow-white dress and had a white hair ornament on her head. If one wanted to be beautiful, one had to be filial. This sentence was vividly reflected by this young woman. However, Ning Qing could see that this young woman wore white clothes. It wasn't because she wanted to be beautiful, but because she was in mourning. Just looking at the anger and hatred in her eyes, Ning Qing understood that something must have happened to her loved ones. The young woman glanced at Ning Qing coldly before turning around and walking away without answering Ning Cheng's words. Round 8, Rainbow Falls Sword Sects Ru Yanhong Falls, Green Feather Spirit Religions Kong Ku wins. At this time, a voice rang out from the battle ring again. Ning Qing felt that something was wrong. Why did Rainbow Falls Sword Sect's disciples fall twice in a row? Rainbow Falls Sword Sect already lost 8 people. Do they still want to continue? Someone in the crowd whispered, but Ning Qing heard it. Ning Qing understood that they were bullying Rainbow Falls Sword Sect. He quickened his steps and caught up with the pretty young woman in the white dress. He called out, "Junior apprentice sister, I'm also a disciple of Rainbow Falls Sword Sect. I know Feng Kai. May I ask where Feng Kai is now?" The young woman stopped and looked at Ning Qing in doubt. After a while, she frowned and said, "Since you're a disciple of Rainbow Falls Sword Sect, why don't you know that Feng Kai died?" Feng Kai died? Ning Qing asked in shock. Seeing that Ning Qing wasn't pretending, the young woman in the white dress said to Ning Qing, "Which peak are you from? Did you just return to the sect, so you don't know what happened to the sect?" Ning Qing vaguely guessed that this matter might have something to do with that array pattern. He suppressed the murderous intent in his heart and asked, "I'm not a disciple of Sifting Forest Star's Rainbow Falls Sword Sect. I'm from Graceful Star Mainland's Rainbow Falls Sword Sect. I met Feng Kai 2 years ago. At that time, Universal Development Sect's Liang Chirue chased after him, and I helped Feng Kai kill Liang Chirue. Later, Feng Kai gave me something. He said that Rainbow Falls Sword Sect's disciple Liang Yi obtained it. I came here just to look around, but now I want to know who killed Feng Kong." "So you're the one who took it?" the young woman in the white dress exclaimed. "What the hell is going on?" Ning Cheng's tone turned stern. The young woman in the white dress bowed to Ning Cheng, "Greetings senior apprentice brother from the sect. I'm Liang Yi's Dao companion, Yu Yayun. After Feng Kai came back, he gave me some cultivation resources, and then went into seclusion. I never had the chance to ask him about some things. But a year later, Universal Development Sect found my Rainbow Falls Sword Sect and forcibly took away Feng Kai. Feng Kai told me about Liang Yi's death before he left. Since then, there was no more news about him. I'm afraid that he has already fallen. I don't think he said that senior apprentice brother took the thing. Otherwise, Universal Development Sect would have known about it. Now that 6 sects have besieged my Rainbow Falls Sword Sect, I'm afraid that after this battle, Rainbow Falls Sword Sect will gradually wither away. Since senior apprentice brother came from the ancestral master's mother sect, you should leave quickly." In Yu Yayun's opinion, since Ning Qing could kill Liang Chirue, who had a heaven's mandate cultivation, then his cultivation must have reached a much higher level than hers. Therefore, it made sense for her to address Ning Qing as senior apprentice brother. Ning Qing waved his hand, "Let's talk about it later. I just heard people say that the 7 sects are competing against each other. How did it turn into 6 sects besieging Rainbow Falls Sword Sect?" Chapter 835. Universal Development Sect asked Rainbow Falls Sword Sect to hand over the thing, but Rainbow Falls Sword Sect couldn't. They asked the Rainbow Falls Sword Sect to use the Mystic Realm as compensation, but the sect master naturally did not agree. As a result, Universal Development Sect and Rainbow Falls Sword Sect set up a fight for the Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm, and the sect master couldn't disagree. The Universal Development Sect also invited the Constellation Sect, the Crimson Afterglow Sect, the Green Feather Divine Cult, the Void Border Sect, the Green Min Mountain, and a few other sects to come over, saying that they would be the notary. Ning Qing interrupted Yu Yayun's words, "I don't think the other academies are here to act as notaries." Who had ever seen a sect that acted as a notary send their disciples into the arena to fight? Yu Yayan spoke up in anger. Sect Master knows that Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's disciples can't compare to Universal Development Sect's disciples, but he can only agree to it. Elder Lu Yun felt uncomfortable in her heart. She didn't want Universal Development Sect to occupy Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's mystic realm alone. Therefore, she proposed a competition between the 7 sections. Then, based on the outcome of the competition, the number of people from each sect entering the mystic realm would be decided. Originally, Elder Lu Yun thought that the Universal Development Sect would refuse. Once the Universal Development Sect refused, they would offend the other 5 sections. He didn't expect that Universal Development Sect and the other 5 sects had already reached an agreement to join forces to snatch Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's mystic realm. Elder Lu Yun's proposal was exactly what they wanted, which resulted in the 6 factions joining forces to kill the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's core disciples through a competition. Moreover, the disciples participating in the tournament had to be the core disciples of their respective academies. Moreover, after this fight, he feared that the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect would no longer have any heritage to remain in the Sifting Orchid Star. The competition will be carried out according to the previous rules. Even the sect master has no right to stop this kind of competition midway. Ning Qing gave a sneer. I'm afraid that after the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's core disciples were all killed, this kind of competition would automatically stop. I think that these 6 factions not only want the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's mystic realm, I'm afraid that even the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect would suffer a calamity in the end. Yu Yayan gave out a sigh and spoke. Sect master also said the same thing. After this fight, my Rainbow Fall Sword Sect might not be able to survive in this place. The Universal Development Sect's disciples' death was just a prelude to this. In fact, even without this reason, the other academies would have coveted the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect sooner or later. Since the discovery of the Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm, the factions coveting the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect are not just 1 or 2 factions. You are just a little disciple, how do you know so much about it? Ning Qing looked at Yu Yayan in doubt. Yu Yayan raised her head and looked at the main stage above the square. She sighed and said, my aunt is the sect head's Tao companion, so I know a lot of things. However, my aunt is only one of the 7 Tao companions of the sect master, so there are many things that I don't know very clearly. Hurry up and leave. We'll meet again. Ning Qing once again called out to Yu Yayan, who was about to leave. Wait a minute. Are you going to fight on the stage? Yu Yayan exuded a deathly aura. It was obvious that she wanted to fight on the stage. Yu Yayan nodded. I'm a core disciple of the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, so this kind of fight is something that I should definitely participate in. Even if I die, I will kill 1 or 2 to avenge Liangyi. That's right, that's right. We have to repay both grudges and favors. Sometimes, it was hard to repay a debt of gratitude, but it was easy to take revenge. Here, I'll lend you this vine for now. Go up and kill all the core disciples of the other sections. Ning Qing raised his hand and called out the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan King before handing it over to Yu Yayan. The Universal Development Sect had joined forces with the other major sects to bully them through fights. Although their means of fighting were a bit insidious, at least on the surface, they weren't unreasonable. As an eternal cultivator, he naturally couldn't personally kill cultivators in the Celestial Scryer realm or Celestial River realm. Ning Qing had seen a lot of things in the starry sky where the strong preyed on the weak. If one was stronger than others, then one had to use strength to speak. If one wasn't as strong as others, then one had to endure it. Just like the current Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, they had no other choice but to endure. Rainbow Fall Sword Sect couldn't move away from the Sifting Forest Star. Even if he went up to the stage and killed all the other sects, it wouldn't help. He couldn't stay in the Sifting Forest Star for the rest of his life. No matter how reasonable the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect was, if he wanted to help the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, who would remain here in the future, he had to pay attention to the means. Just like if the other sects wanted to destroy the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect by force, the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect would have long since perished. Because of this, the 6 major sects, including the Universal Development Sect, decided to come up with this seemingly fair method. But in fact, it was a bullying method. Ning Cheng lent the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King to Yu Yayan. Although it seemed fair, it was also a bullying method. Since he wanted to kill the Rainbow Fall Sword sect's core disciple with strength, then he would let the Rainbow Fall Sword sect return the favor with strength. Yu Yayan subconsciously took the 1-inch-long underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King and asked in doubt, "Is this an underworld crow ghost Rot Tan?" Ning Cheng nodded. "This Rot Tan will automatically attach itself to your wrist and help you when the time comes." He didn't explain that this wasn't an underworld crow ghost Rot Tan, but an underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King. As soon as Ning Cheng's voice fell, the underworld crow ghost Rot Tan King turned into a vine mark and attached itself to Yu Yayan's wrist. "Thank you, senior apprentice brother." Yu Yayan bowed. She knew that this senior apprentice brother had an underworld crow ghost Rot Tan that could attach itself to someone and could even kill Yang Chirui. From this, she understood that this senior apprentice brother had at least reached the late-stage Heaven's Mandate realm or even the Heaven-seated realm. "By the way, I have one more thing to ask you. Did the Rainbow Fall Sword sect take away Feng Kai on their own initiative, or did they forcibly take him away?" Ning Cheng asked another question when Yu Yayan was about to leave. An eternal powerhouse from the Universal Development sect came to the sect. Feng Kai knew that even if the sect master took out the lives of the entire sect, he wouldn't be able to stop an eternal powerhouse. Therefore, after telling me some things, he took the initiative to leave with the eternal cultivator from the Universal Development sect. Yu Yayan obviously knew why Ning Cheng asked this question, but she also told him the truth. Ning Cheng nodded. "Go ahead. I'll help you hold the line. Remember to kill as many as you can." Sect Master Xian, the 8th round has already ended. But for the 9th round, Void Border Gate's disciples have been waiting on the stage for quite some time. "Why hasn't your sect sent anyone up yet?" On the main stage of the Sword Stone Public Square, an elder from the Universal Development sect asked a middle-aged male cultivator sitting not far away. This middle-aged male cultivator was Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's Sect Master Xian Chanxiu. He truly regretted it now. He felt sure that the other 6 sects wouldn't lose a disciple in every round. Unfortunately, he couldn't watch the battles between the other sects yet. It was because they had already discussed it before the competition. Rainbow Fall Sword sect was the host, so they had to participate in the first 10 rounds. The 7 sects had already signed the agreement, and no sect could withdraw midway. Once they withdrew, the sect would have to immediately leave the Sifting Forest Star. Rainbow Fall Sword sect had spent many generations and a lot of effort to maintain its current state on the Sifting Forest Star. He, Xian Chanxiu, didn't have the qualifications to move away, nor did he have the qualifications to withdraw. If he really did so, he would become the biggest sinner of Rainbow Fall Sword sect. "Elder Bao, you underestimate Rainbow Fall Sword sect too much. Didn't a disciple already come on stage? Moreover, it's a beautiful woman." An early-stage life and death middle-aged woman spoke with a smile. In fact, even if she didn't say it, Elder Bao had already seen it. Indeed, someone had come on stage. Not only did someone come on stage, but it was also a beautiful young woman in white. "Yayun." Xian Chanxiu's expression changed, and he immediately stood up. The Void Border Gate's disciples on the battle stage were all late-stage Heaven's Mandate realm, while Yu Yayun was only at the middle stage of Undead realm. The difference was too great. Going up was no different from courting death. But soon, he sat down in disappointment. He was a sect master, yet he couldn't stop the death of a core disciple of his sect. It was truly sad. It wasn't that Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples weren't as good as others, but that there were too few Heaven's Mandate realm disciples among Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples. If Rainbow Fall Sword sect sent out a Celestial Bridge disciple, the other sects would send out an Undead Realm disciple. Once Rainbow Fall Sword sect sent out an Undead Realm disciple, the other sects would send out a Heaven's Mandate disciple. Occasionally, Rainbow Fall Sword sect would send out a Heaven's Mandate disciple, while the other sects would send out a full-circle Heaven's Mandate or even a half-step Heaven-seated expert. With such a method, no matter how many disciples they sent out, it wouldn't be enough for others to kill. Void Border Gate's Bian Peng, what's this little sister's name? Bien Peng's eyes lit up when she saw Yu Yayun. Even a part of her body felt a little hot. This kind of woman was what he wanted the most. Even looking at her made him feel comfortable. Yu Yayun's face turned gloomy. She didn't even bother to speak and brought out a cyan sword. The cyan sword had just come out when it turned into countless sword shadows. These sword shadows completely locked down the space around Bien Peng. Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's disciples, most of them were sword cultivators. Although Yu Yayun didn't have a sword skill grand spirit technique, this sword shadow spirit technique wasn't something ordinary cultivators could compare to. A starry sky cultivator with the same cultivation, in front of a sword cultivator from Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, did not have the qualifications to act arrogant. Bien Peng showed a smile. What a hot temper. Today, this big brother will let you know what a man is. As Bien Peng spoke, he brought out a pair of round drums. This pair of round drums, one on the left and one on the right, locked Yu Yayun in the middle. The round drums had not yet sounded, but the vibrations made Yu Yayun feel flustered. Just when Bien Peng was about to drive the round drums, several rattans suddenly appeared out of thin air and completely locked him in place. At this moment, the rattans directly tore apart his domain, while his celestial essence and spiritual consciousness also felt suppressed by the rattans. Yu Yayun felt the suppression around her lighten, and she immediately saw the underworld crow ghost rattan king locking Bien Peng in place. But before she could do anything, the sword shadows she brought out turned Bien Peng into pieces. Even his essence spirit couldn't survive for even half a breath. The entire Rainbow Fall Sword Stone's public square turned silent. This fight had ended too quickly. It seemed that it had ended before it even started. Yu Yayun felt even more shocked. She didn't expect this senior apprentice brother from the graceful star mainland to be so overbearing. Just by lending her a rattan, he instantly killed Bien Peng, a late-stage Heaven's Mandate cultivator. Fortunately, she quickly sobered up and put away Bien Peng's ring. Then, a cluster of flames burned Bien Peng into nothingness. The underworld crow ghost rattan king had long since hidden itself and once again reappeared on Yu Yayun's wrist. At this time, the presiding cultivator reacted and quickly sang, Round 9, Void Border Gates Bien Peng falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's Yu Yayun wins. After this song came out, the public square erupted in shock. Some of the low-level disciples of Rainbow Fall Sword Sect screamed even louder. After losing 8 rounds in a row, they finally won one. Senior Apprentice Sister Yu is eternal. I will always love Senior Apprentice Sister Yu. All kinds of screams erupted. Even Yu Yayun, who had a murderous look on her face, couldn't help but blush with excitement. She had never enjoyed such treatment before. Initially, she came up to seek death. But she didn't expect that not only would she not die, but she would also help her sect easily kill a person. Ha! Even if he knew that he shouldn't show any signs of victory or defeat, Xian Chanqiu couldn't help but stand up and laugh. Chapter 836. 3 seats away from Xian Chanqiu was a short-haired man with a pointy face. When he heard the loud laughter, his face turned ashen. As for the other 5 academies and the disciples of the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, all of them came out unscathed. When it was Void Border Gate's turn, a disciple had fallen. This was simply too much of a slap to their face. Furthermore, he knew that the disciple who was killed was a disciple with great potential from the Void Border School. Such a disciple with such potential had now fallen in the hands of the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect for no apparent reason. Before the presiding cultivator could announce the start of the 10th round, a man jumped onto the stage. Xian Chanqiu's laughter immediately stopped. He knew this cultivator. It was the Constellation Sect's disciple, Fu Su, who killed Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's core disciple, Shang Yongzhan, in the 7th round. Seeing that another person had come onto the stage, the host on the side hurriedly called out for the 10th round to begin. The many cultivators below the stage fell silent as they nervously watched the duel between Fu Su and Yu Yayun. No matter how strong Fu Su was, he had yet to reach the heaven-seated realm. As such, facing the underworld crow ghost rattan king, it was not enough. Yu Yayun had just brought out her sword Shadows and her domain had just collided with Fu Su's domain when the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King tore through Fu Su's domain. A few breaths later, the fully activated sword Shadow smashed Fu Su into pieces. Fu Su died even faster than Bien Peng. At the very least, Bien Peng had managed to fully extend his domain and bring out more than half of his magic treasures. As for Fu Su, he had only just brought out his magical weapon. Before he could even pose a threat, he was already killed. Yu Yayun stared blankly at the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King mark on her wrist. She hadn't even made a move, yet her opponent had already died. This was simply, the cultivator presiding over the match reacted quickly, and immediately sang out, Round 10, Constellation Sect's disciple Fu Su falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's Yu Yayun wins. Yu Yayun once again killed Fu Su in an instant. This time, the square was in a complete uproar. In the previous battles, even if one was killed, there was still a process. The two battles just now didn't have any process at all, and he was killed immediately. Ning Qing secretly cursed the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King for being an idiot. If this went on, how could he kill any core disciples? He immediately sent a message to the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King, asking it to restrain itself from the next fight. If he could kill them in an instant like this every time, his plan would be ruined. He wanted Yu Yayun to go up to kill the core disciples of other sections. Otherwise, he could just go up himself. Why would he need Yu Yayun? The Sword Stone Square was in an uproar, but no one was willing to go on stage to fight anymore. Two Fate State cultivators had been instantly killed. The other cultivators weren't fools. Why would they go and get themselves killed? No one went up, but some of the sect elders and sect leaders on the main stage were discussing spiritedly. Obviously, Yu Yayun's attack had shocked everyone. She has a very powerful pet beast. It should be something like a vine. It looks like a starry sky grade 7 underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King. Impossible. What's her cultivation? It can control a starry sky grade 7 underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King. Using a pet beast like this is no different from cheating. That's right, this is cheating. If our sect allowed our disciples to compete with high-level pet beasts, what kind of competition would it be? Let's just have a beast fight. The various discussions on the main stage made Xian Chanshu's face turn ashen. These sects were simply too shameless. Although he also wondered why Yu Yayun was so powerful, Yu Yayun's use of plant vines to fight the enemy was completely within the rules. It had nothing to do with cheating at all. Sect Master Xian, your Rainbow Fall Sword sect really knows how to cheat. You even used such a high-level pet beast to help your disciples. What's the point of this kind of competition? If you really want to compete like this, then we might as well let our disciples use our sect's top-grade pet beasts. Universal Development Sect's elder Bao Xian, who had previously ridiculed Xian Chanshu, spoke up again. He knew that Yu Yayun's pet beast wasn't of a low level, but it definitely wasn't a Starry Sky grade 7 pet beast. Not to mention that Sifting Forest Star couldn't cultivate a grade 7 pet beast. Even if it could, Yu Yayun couldn't control it. Xian Chanshu sneered, if you don't have the guts, just say that you lost. What's the point of making such an excuse? My Rainbow Fall Sword sect lost 8 core disciples in a row, and did you hear me say half a word? Sure enough, when people are shameless, they can say anything. Now, my Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples have been waiting on the dueling stage for a while. Why hasn't anyone come up yet? Bao Xian suddenly stood up and overflowed with murderous aura. What's wrong? Is Sect Master Xian here to teach me a lesson? Xian Chanshu's face turned a little pale. He knew that he couldn't compare to Bao Xian. But since this person dared to bully his sect, he naturally wouldn't back down. He also suddenly stood up and said, I don't deserve to teach you a lesson. I'm just stating the facts. Perhaps Elder Bao is right. But whether my Rainbow Fall Sword sect wins or loses, there is no reason to speak of. After saying these words, Xian Chanshu felt as sullen as he could get. The reason why this fight wasn't fair was because Rainbow Fall Sword sect wasn't as strong as others. Ning Qing felt overjoyed when he saw the conflict on the main stage. As long as Bao Xian dared to take the initiative, he would use his time will to turn all the invaders into nothingness. Then, he would have an excuse to destroy the other sections. But to Ning Chang's disappointment, another eternal cultivator called out to Bao Xian. Apparently, this eternal cultivator understood that if he wanted to take over Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, he couldn't do so through a tough stance. He had to have a solid reason to do so. Otherwise, he would face endless troubles in the future. Bao Xian's reason didn't hold up at all. After this eternal cultivator called out to Bao Xian, a cultivator standing behind him took the initiative to speak up. "Master, Elder Bao, let me handle the 11th round. This time, it all started because of my big brother. I should be the one to take the lead." The eternal cultivator nodded. "Qiuqi, you have to be careful. That rattan of hers is a bit weird. If I'm not wrong, it's indeed the underworld crow ghost rattan king. However, it would be very difficult for the underworld crow ghost rattan king to advance to Starry Sky Grade 7. That little female cultivator on the dueling platform shouldn't be able to do it." Although he said that Yu Yayan couldn't do it, what he meant was that Rainbow Fall Sword Sect couldn't help the underworld crow ghost rattan king advance to Starry Sky Grade 7. The cultivator who asked to fight bowed and nodded cautiously before stepping onto the dueling platform from the void. Seeing this cultivator step onto the stage, Xian Chanchu frowned. He also knew this cultivator. He was Universal Development Sect's premier genius disciple, Liang Qiuqi. His elder brother, Liang Qiurui, was the cause of this incident. According to Universal Development Sect's words, Rainbow Fall Sword Sect killed Liang Qiurui. Liang Qiuqi's cultivation had already reached the full circle of Heaven's Mandate Realm. With just one more step, he would advance to the half-step Heaven-seated realm, an expert ready to advance to the Heaven-seated realm. Since Universal Development Sect sent a half-step Heaven-seated disciple to fight, Xian Chanchu couldn't say half a word. After Yu Yayan killed 2 people in a row, someone still dared to come onto the stage to challenge her. The Sword Stone public square immediately turned lively. Some of the cultivators who knew about Liang Qiuqi's origins cheered for him even more. Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's disciples naturally also cheered for Yu Yayan. Liang Qiuqi didn't make a move as soon as he came up. Instead, he stared at Yu Yayan calmly and spoke with a flat tone. "My name is Liang Qiuqi. You have to remember it well. Don't wait until you die without knowing who killed you." Yu Yayan's pretty figure looked like a block of wood in his eyes. He didn't have Bian Peng's lustful look. Yu Yayan's tone was equally cold. "You also have to remember that it was my Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's disciples who killed you and your brother. Sure enough, your Rainbow Fall Sword Sect killed my big brother." Liang Qiuqi's voice carried a blade-like killing intent. After speaking, he didn't wait for Yu Yayan to answer. Instead, his killing intent domain surged out. The underworld crow ghost rattan king didn't dare to kill Liang Qiuqi immediately. Therefore, it was a step slower. Yu Yayan's domain felt as fragile as an eggshell under Liang Qiuqi's domain and directly shattered. Before Yu Yayan could even attack, the powerful domain's imposing manner suppressed her and forced her to spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Seeing Yu Yayan spurt out blood, the elders of the other sects secretly breathed in relief. It seemed that Yu Yayan wasn't that powerful. As long as they could suppress her rattan, Yu Yayan wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Liang Qiuqi also breathed in relief. To be honest, he felt a little afraid of Yu Yayan. But now that Yu Yayan couldn't resist the imposing manner of his domain, he naturally felt a lot more relaxed. While the other sects felt relaxed, the people from Rainbow Fall Sword Sect felt their hearts hanging in their throats. Liang Qiuqi raised his hand and brought out a yin-yang 8 trigrams disc. He wanted to suppress Yu Yayan in the shortest time possible and then take her away. Since Yu Yayan knew who killed his big brother, how could he let her go? As soon as he brought out the yin-yang 8 trigrams disc, it turned into 2 yin and yang auras. With Yu Yayan's strength, she couldn't even breathe under the suppression of the yin and yang auras, let alone resist. She couldn't even move her long sword in her hand. At the same time, the underworld crow ghost Rattan King moved. Countless rattan vines spread out and in a short time confronted Liang Qiuqi's domain. The underworld crow ghost Rattan King even managed to resist the yin and yang aura of Liang Qiuqi's 8 trigrams disc. Although Liang Qiuqi was powerful, he couldn't fight against the underworld crow ghost Rattan King. If not for Ning Chang's instructions, the underworld crow ghost Rattan King would have gained an absolute advantage at this time. Yu Yayun immediately understood that the ghost Rattan King had made a move. Only then did she manage to bring out her sword shadows. The dueling platform quickly filled with endless rattan vines, the yin and yang 8 trigrams aura, and Yu Yayun's sword shadows. Celestial essence explosions erupted, and the yin and yang aura of the 8 trigrams disc slammed into the restrictions on the edge of the dueling platform, creating an astonishing momentum. Whether it was the people on the public square's main platform or the countless cultivators watching the battle below the platform, everyone nervously watched the intense battle taking place on the dueling platform. After experiencing 2 instant kills, the 11th round was finally starting to look presentable. Boom boom boom. The sword shadows waved, and the yin and yang auras crisscrossed. However, the number of rattan vines in the dueling ring kept decreasing. Most of the cultivators watching the battle thought that Liang Qiuqi's yin-yang 8 trigrams disc had already swept away most of the rattan vines. As long as the dueling continued, Yu Yayun's rattan vines would eventually disappear. Even Liang Qiuqi felt that the rattan vines were getting less and less threatening under his attacks. With a snort, he fully stimulated his celestial essence. Now that the time had come, he no longer had the mood to fight against a low-level cultivator like Yu Yayun. Only a few eternal cultivators felt that something was wrong, but Liang Qiuqi still had the upper hand. Just when Liang Qiuqi stimulated his celestial essence and wanted to fight back in one fell swoop, 2 rattan vines suddenly stretched out from under his feet, completely ignoring his domain and completely binding him. These 2 rattan vines seemed to be several times stronger than the previous rattan vines. Even if Liang Qiuqi struggled, he couldn't break free. Not good. Liang Qiuqi had just felt something wrong when Yu Yayun's sword shadows rushed over and tore through his body without any hindrance. Chapter 837. Round 11, Universal Development Sex Liang Qiuqi falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sex Yu Yayun wins. This battle was intense and lasted for a long time. Therefore, the announcer quickly announced the result. Liang Qiuqi was strong, but he wasn't the strongest under the heaven-seated realm. Now that Liang Qiuqi and Yu Yayun had fought, even though Yu Yayun had defeated Liang Qiuqi, she was also battered and exhausted. Not only was his breathing chaotic, he even spat out a mouthful of blood. Some of the cultivators who were in no way weaker than Liang Qiuqi were eager to give it a try. The battle between Yu Yayun and Liang Qiuqi proved that Yu Yayun was only at this level. Not to mention, Yu Yayun had already exhausted herself greatly. If he could kill Yu Yayun in one fell swoop, his name would definitely spread throughout the entire sifting forest star. In just a dozen breaths of time, someone flew onto the dueling platform. There were even a few people in the audience who were eager to give it a try. From her performance on the dueling platform, everyone could tell that Yu Yayun was indeed exhausted. The battle this time also lasted for a long time, and the process was intense and dangerous. At the last moment, Yu Yayun barely managed to defeat her opponent. The 12th round, Green Feather Spirit Religion's Kong Ko falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sex Yu Yayun wins. The 13th round, Green Feather Spirit Religion's Ganjiyu falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sex Yu Yayun wins. In the 14th round, Scarlet Cloud Faction's Yin Ziqian fell, Rainbow Fall Sword Sex Yu Yayun wins. The 19th round, Constellation Sex Kong Shana falls, Rainbow Fall Sword Sex Yu Yayun wins. When the participating cultivators sang to the 19th round, and no one went on stage for a while, everyone suddenly woke up. Yu Yayun had already won 11 matches in a row, and all her opponents had fallen on the dueling platform. Moreover, apart from the first 2 matches, the rest of the matches were extremely difficult to fight. Yu Yayun seemed like she could be killed at any time, but in fact, Yu Yayun was able to persist until the end and kill her opponent. The cultivators who came to their senses no longer went up to court death. Most of them thought that Yu Yayun was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. She purposely showed weakness to the enemy and then went on a killing spree. She was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight, yet after going up to fight, he was still courting death. Wasn't this showing weakness to his opponent? Universal Development Sect's Bao Xian slammed the table in front of him and suddenly stood up with an angry voice. Xian Chanxiu, isn't your Rainbow Fall Sword sect too shameless? To actually lend your sect's Starry Sky Grade 7 Underworld Crow Ghost Rot 10 King to a disciple and let that disciple kill the core disciples of the other sects on the dueling platform. Do you think that the other 6 sects are blind? Xian Chanxiu, who knew that Bao Xian was looking for an excuse, could only suppress his anger and say to Yu Yayun, Yayun, come down. The next match will not be a match between my Rainbow Fall Sword sect, but rather a match between the other academies. Yu Yayun had killed 11 core disciples in a row, and the killing intent in her heart had long since been worn down. Now that the sect master had asked her to go down, she naturally wouldn't stay up there. However, even if she wanted to go down now, it was impossible. Yu Yayun had killed 11 core disciples of the other sects, and they were all outstanding disciples. If they let Yu Yayun die just like that, how could the 6 sects swallow this anger? If the Rainbow Fall Sword sect was powerful, then it would not have mattered. However, the Rainbow Fall Sword sect was such a weak faction, yet they actually dared to kill the core disciples of other factions on the dueling platform. Go down. Don't even dream about it. If your Rainbow Fall Sword sect doesn't explain the matter of cheating today, my Universal Development sect will never let it go. Bao Xian spoke up with a stern voice. Bao Xian's words immediately got the support of the other sections. Even the few eternal cultivators no longer spoke. Apparently, they wanted to force Rainbow Fall Sword sect to take the initiative to admit cheating and then punish Yu Yayun. Rainbow Fall Sword sect was a sword cultivation sect, and a sword cultivation sect naturally needed sword bones and sword aura. Xian Chanxiu had been bullied for a long time. Moreover, someone still pointed at his nose and bullied him. He couldn't bear it anymore. Xian Chanxiu, who couldn't stand it anymore, also slapped the table and stood up. Bao Xian, you keep saying that my Rainbow Fall Sword sect cheated. But why didn't I hear any objections from you when the other sects killed my Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciples? What's wrong with my Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciple, Yu Yayun, having a pet? Don't you allow cultivators to have their own pet? Bao Xian gave a cold snort. If we all lend our sect's pet beasts to our disciples, what kind of fight is this? Xian Chanxiu suppressed his anger and spoke up coldly, Yu Yayun is my Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciple. I swear in the name of Rainbow Fall Sword sect's sect master that I have never handed over any pet beasts to Yu Yayun. If you insist on lending your sect's pet beasts to your disciples on the duel stage, Xian Chanxiu will never say a word of nonsense. Disciples fighting on the stage, life and death are determined by fate. If you can't beat them, then come and find excuses. This isn't something my Rainbow Fall Sword sect would do. Bao Xian was at a loss for words. If their sect had a Starry Sky Grade 7 demonic pet, they would have taken it out a long time ago. Unfortunately, they didn't have one. Was a Starry Sky Grade 7 demonic pet that easy to cultivate? Not to mention top-grade pet beasts, they didn't even have an ordinary pet beast. Okay. An old voice arrived, and then an old man in grey robes landed on the main stage. When Xian Chanxiu saw this old man, he quickly bowed, Disciple Xian Chanxiu greets Elder Supreme Yu. This old man was Rainbow Fall Sword sect's most powerful Supreme Elder Yu Bo. If it weren't for Rainbow Fall Sword sect being forced into a corner, he wouldn't have come out of seclusion. Unfortunately, even if he came out of seclusion, it wouldn't help. A life and death cultivator, even at the full circle of the life and death realm, couldn't do anything against several eternal cultivators here. Ha, Yu Bo, you haven't made any progress after so many years of seclusion. Your Rainbow Fall Sword sect's disciple cheated with a Grade 7 Starry Sky pet beast, yet you still say it's okay. Are you trying to bully my Universal Development sect? A man in brocaded robes stood up and stared at the old man with a cold expression. Under the suppression of his powerful aura, Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's Supreme Elder Yu Bo couldn't even say a word. If one's cultivation couldn't match up to others, then no matter how much backbone one had, it would be useless. This brocaded-robed man was Universal Development Sect's Sect Master Lien Yen, an early-stage eternal cultivator. He was the one who looked for the array patterns, and he was also Liang Chuqi's master. After suppressing Yu Bo with his imposing aura, Lien Yen said to Bao Xian on the side, "Go catch the cheating disciple and confiscate his things. Strip him naked and hang him on the edge of the dueling platform as a warning." After Lien Yen said those words, the other eternal cultivators regretted not taking action earlier. That was the Starry Sky Grade 7 Underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan King. How powerful would it be if they could get their hands on it? Xian Chanqiu and Yu Bo's expressions changed drastically. Once Yu Yayan was stripped naked and hung up, it would also mean that Rainbow Fall Sword Sect would also be stripped naked and would no longer have a foothold in the Sifting Forest Star. The two immediately wanted to stop it. But although their cultivations weren't bad, it still wasn't enough in front of an eternal cultivator. Bao Xian had been waiting for these words. He had wanted to take action for a long time, but the sect master didn't say anything. Now that the sect master spoke up, he stepped out of the void and raised his hand to grab Yu Yayun on the dueling platform. He then spoke up in anger, "The dueling platform is a fair and just place for people, yet you cheated with your sect's guardian pet beast. I won't forgive you. Since this is a duel, I will preside over justice." A powerful imposing aura shrouded over Yu Yayun, an undead cultivator, couldn't even breathe under the suppression of such a powerful domain's imposing aura. Even the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King couldn't break through the suppression of this domain's imposing aura. Yu Yayun subconsciously wanted to look at Ning Cheng, but she couldn't even turn her neck, let alone stretch out her spiritual consciousness. Just when Bao Xian's hand was about to grab Yu Yayun, his body suddenly stiffened. An even more terrifying pressure fell on him, and the domain around him tore apart like a rag in an instant. At this moment, his spiritual consciousness and celestial essence couldn't move at all. The only thing that could move was his consciousness. Sensing the threat of death, Bao Xian's eyes filled with horror. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. Yu Yayun felt her body lighten, and then she saw a huge celestial essence handprint slowly stretch over. This handprint directly grabbed Bao Xian's neck and lifted him up. It was the senior apprentice brother who lent her the underworld crow Ghost Rot Tan King. Yu Yayun instantly understood, and her eyes lit up with excitement. She knew about Bao Xian, a famous elder of Universal Development Sect and a middle-stage life and death powerhouse. Yet, an invisible celestial essence handprint grabbed the neck of such a powerhouse. How powerful was this senior apprentice brother from Graceful Star Mainland? She even tried to persuade this senior apprentice brother to run away. Did he really want to escape with such strength? Sure enough, the disciples from the I Xing mainland were all extremely powerful. Junior apprentice brother Rui Baishan, whom the sect master brought back a few years ago, was also quite tyrannical. But now, this senior apprentice brother was even more powerful. No wonder the ancestral master could create the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. The ancestral master also came from Graceful Star Mainland. The huge celestial essence handprint grabbed Bao Xian's neck and lifted him up. He couldn't resist and looked like a frog in the void, struggling powerlessly with his hands and feet. This terrifying scene immediately shocked everyone on the Sword Stone Public Square and the main platform. All the elders and sect masters on the main platform stood up one after another. Even the domain suppression that bound Xian Chanqiu and Yu Bo loosened at this moment. Ning Qing stepped onto the dueling platform and looked at Bao Xian in the air before speaking with a cold voice. "Did you just say that you want to be fair and just? You, a cultivator in the life and death realm, want to deal with a cultivator in the undead realm? Is that fair and just? Do you have any shame or no shame? Who said that disciples can't use companion beasts, talismans, or use their own killing methods in the duels? If you don't have the guts, then don't come here to make a fool of yourself. Trash." The celestial essence handprint in the void exerted force, and Bao Xian's entire body turned into a blood mist before disappearing without a trace. Only a ring fell in front of Yu Yayun, and Yu Yayun heard Ning Cheng's voice, "This ring is for you to calm down." Yu Yayun bowed in surprise and said, "Many thanks, senior apprentice brother." She quickly reached out and put away the ring. How many good things did a life and death powerhouse's ring contain? Seeing Yu Yayun put away the ring of a life and death cultivator, many cultivators on the sword stone showed envious looks. "This Dao friend, this is an internal matter of our 7 sections." Yet, this Dao friend intervened in the internal affairs of our 7 sects and even killed a life and death elder of my Universal Development sect. Isn't it a bit too unreasonable? The Universal Development sect master stood up with an ugly expression. He could see that Ning Cheng was also an eternal powerhouse, and Ning Cheng was even stronger than him. Ning Cheng stared at the Universal Development sect master coldly and asked, "Didn't you just say that you wanted to strip Yu Yayun and hang her up?" Chapter 838. At this moment, a cyan shadow fell from the sky at the fastest speed. "So what if it's me? This emperor is Lian Yan, the sect master of Universal Development sect." Lian Yan gave a cold snort. Even if he was only at the early stage eternal realm, he was still an eternal expert. No matter how strong Ning Cheng was, he was only in the eternal realm. "We're both in the eternal realm, so what right do you have to talk to me like this?" Besides, Ning Cheng had killed Bao Xian with a sneak attack the moment he arrived, which meant that he had already formed an enmity with Universal Development sect. As the sect master of Universal Development sect, how could he show weakness in front of Ning Cheng? Xian Chanqiu didn't have the demeanor of a heaven-seated expert. After he finished speaking, he spat out a mouthful of saliva. When Lian Yan's weapon turned into a ray of Dao charm, Ning Cheng's traceless spear pattern tore apart his weapon's ray of Dao charm. An eternal cultivator's self-detonation only caused this much commotion because Ning Cheng had already sealed 90% of his celestial essence. With Chu Shushan taking the lead, the other sects took the opportunity to play their own roles. Lan Yi used to call Ning Cheng Brother Ning before, but she didn't dare to call him that now. Not to mention that Ning Cheng was an expert on the same level as old man Kong He. Qingmin Mountain's rudeness in coming to Rainbow Fall Sword sect to cause trouble made Lan Yi tremble in fear. Lan Yi spoke up in horror, "Senior has shown graciousness to Lan Yi, yet my Qingmin Mountain coveted Rainbow Fall Sword sect's mystic realm without asking about right or wrong. Please punish me, Senior. On behalf of Qingmin Mountain, this junior will comply." Xian Chanqiu sneered from the side, "Are you trying to be reasonable at this time? When your 6 sects wanted to seize my Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm and Rainbow Fall Sword sect, why didn't anyone talk reason with you?" Bah! Lian Yan felt so ashamed that he wanted to die. He was an eternal expert, yet he suffered such humiliation. As for insulting Yu Yayun before, he naturally didn't think there was anything wrong with it. In his eyes, Yu Yayun was just an undead cultivator. Even if she was stripped naked and hung up, it was still a warning. But he was an eternal realm expert. He quickly came to Ning Cheng and bowed to the ground, "Many thanks for upholding justice, Senior. Otherwise, my Rainbow Fall Sword sect would have been occupied by a group of shameless people." Xian Chanqiu and Yu Bo felt ecstatic. They didn't expect that this powerhouse was from Rainbow Fall Sword sect or even from Graceful Star Mainland's main sect. With such a powerhouse keeping watch, not to mention the sifting forest star, even within the entire starry skies, no one would dare to touch the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. Frightened by Ning Cheng, Chu Shushan broke out in a cold sweat, unable to even speak a single word. When Lian Yan saw Ning Cheng appear and easily kill Bao Xian, he began to be wary of Ning Cheng. His domain had already completely protected himself. Lian Yan did not have the time to escape, when Ning Cheng's spear pattern locked him in place. The next moment, he, just like Bao Xian, was picked up by Ning Cheng. As she spoke, Guang Ruodong sent out a message. She and Lan Yi were familiar with each other and had long known about Ning Cheng's existence. Therefore, after learning Ning Cheng's name, he immediately sent a message to Lan Yi. Sure enough, she advanced to the Eternal Realm. Ning Cheng nodded. He guessed that Lan Yi didn't know about it. With Lan Yi's urgency, she must have gone into seclusion to advance to the eternal realm, and then went into seclusion to stabilize her cultivation. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, Chu Su Sheng's face turned pale. He worried that Ning Cheng would pick him up and throw him into the array flag in the next moment, leaving him to self-destruct. If they still had an excuse to make Ning Cheng speechless before, then they no longer had any excuse now. Ning Cheng had already killed them, so he didn't have to worry about using his power to oppress them. Senior, this junior is Guang Ruatong from the Blue Lake Mountain. Sect Master Chu's meaning is that this is an internal matter of the sifting forest star. Even if Senior's cultivation reaches the heavens, I'm afraid it would be inappropriate for you to intervene in this matter. An early-stage life and death female cultivator came forward and spoke in a tone that was neither arrogant nor humble. Not waiting for Chu Su-sheng to say that he met Xiao Jirui at a party, Ning Cheng followed up, when I went to the devil domain last time, I taught him a lesson and even cut off one of his arms. Do you want to help him? Lan Yi, as a new eternal powerhouse from the Blue Lake Mountain, had also held a ceremony to advance to the eternal realm. The other sect elders on hearing Lan Yi address Ning Cheng as senior felt even more flustered. When Ning Cheng's words came out, all the cultivators present froze. Was this powerhouse from the Rainbow Fall Sword sect? If this person was from the Rainbow Fall Sword sect, it would be natural for him to intervene in this matter. Chu Su-sheng was the first to react. He immediately raised his hand and slapped the face of a heaven-seated elder next to him. Idiot, you actually listened to Universal Development Sect's words. You dare to offend a friendly sect without figuring things out. Everyone could hear that Chu Su-sheng's last sentence was a show of weakness. Therefore, no one spoke up at this time. Chu Su-sheng's words were the only reason they could find. That is, if you are unreasonable, we can't do anything about it. If you are reasonable, even if you are Xiao Jirui, you can't intervene in this matter. Lian Yan didn't fear Ning Cheng because he only thought that Ning Cheng was slightly stronger than him. But he didn't expect Ning Cheng to be this powerful. In a panic, he quickly brought out his weapon. Yi Jiufeng and Xiao Jirui don't dare to proclaim themselves as emperors in front of me. Yet, you, an early-stage eternal cultivator, dare to proclaim yourself as an emperor in front of me? As Ning Cheng spoke, he raised his hand and threw Lian Yan onto the dueling platform. Following that, dozens of array flags flew over, sealing Lian Yan's celestial essence and tearing off his clothes. Ning Cheng then imprisoned him on the dueling platform. Finally, a pointy-faced, short-haired male cultivator stepped forward and cupped his hands towards Ning Cheng. We all know how powerful Dao Friend is. Since Dao Friend knows Brother Jirui, then you are also an acquaintance. For a powerhouse like Dao Friend to intervene in the affairs of sifting forest stars inner sects without asking about right or wrong, isn't it a bit too much? Of course, I'm just an early-stage eternal cultivator. Dao Friend can kill me at any time, but I still have to speak my mind. Unfortunately, although both were at the early-stage eternal realm, the gap between Lian Yan and Ning Cheng was too big. The imposing aura of the two's domains collided, and Lian Yan's domain immediately shattered. He no longer had the right to speak in this space. She knew this Ning Cheng better than the average person. She had seen Ning Cheng extinguish old man Kong He's prestige and kill Fu Si, someone she couldn't even imagine. What's more, Ning Cheng had shown her kindness. Even if he didn't, Blue Lake Mountain couldn't afford to offend such a powerhouse. Ning Cheng motioned for Xian Chanchu to stand aside before speaking to Guang Ruatong. Presumably, your Blue Lake Mountain's Lan Yi is about to come out of seclusion to break through to the eternal realm, right? Go back and tell everyone in your Blue Lake Mountain that I, Ning Cheng, will take care of this matter. The elders and sect masters of the major sects started to panic. No one thought that Ning Cheng was lying. How could a powerhouse like Ning Cheng have the free time to come to this place and pretend to be a disciple of another sect? What they were thinking about was what to do next. Rainbow Fall Sword sect had such a powerhouse, yet they wanted to occupy Rainbow Fall Sword sect's mystic realm. Countless eyes stared at him, and Lian Yan almost went crazy. He desperately tried to burn his essence, blood and longevity. But he soon discovered that although he couldn't move, he could still burn his essence blood to self-destruct. Ning Qing didn't answer Lian Yan's words at all. Instead, his domain surged out. How could Ning Qing not understand Chu Xusheng's meaning? He glanced at Chu Xusheng and spoke with disdain, "Are you familiar with Qiao Jierui?" Seeing Ning Qing kill Universal Development sect master and elder in an instant, the other 5 major sex experts stood up one after another with uneasy expressions on their faces. Ning Cheng's strength was just too strong, so much so that they didn't dare to speak out against him. Chu Xusheng's soul almost jumped out of his body when he heard Ning Cheng's words. He had thought that Ning Cheng, like him, would take out experts like Yi Jiufeng and Qiao Jierui to show off. He never expected that Ning Cheng and Qiao Jierui would have a grudge against each other. Moreover, Ning Cheng even cut off one of Qiao Jierui's arms in Qiao Jierui's lair, Devil Domain. Ah! Guang Ruodong felt shocked when she heard Ning Cheng's words. She immediately bowed and said, "This junior greets Senior Ning. My Blue Lake Mountain is in the wrong in this matter and is willing to accept punishment." Ning Cheng had a good impression of Blue Lake Mountain's Lan Yi. This woman not only had a good heart, but she also gave him a very important material in exchange. However, Ning Cheng also felt unhappy that Blue Lake Mountain wanted to occupy the Rainbow Fall mystic realm. This person was Void Border Gate's sect master, Chu Xusheng, who also had early-stage eternal cultivation. Since Void Border Gate's genius core disciple fell in Rainbow Fall Sword Sect, he had made up his mind to destroy Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. However, he didn't expect that such a terrifying powerhouse would appear at this critical time. After putting on a show, he bowed to Ning Cheng and asked for instructions, willing to accept punishment. Ning Cheng ignored Guang Ruotong and spoke up in a clear voice, "I'm Ning Cheng, from Graceful Star Mainland's Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. I'm also the sect master of Graceful Star Mainland's Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. Do you think I'm qualified to take care of this matter? I'm very clear about what happened today. Universal Development Sect, Constellation Sect, Scarlet Cloud Faction, Green Feather Spirit Religion, Void Border Gate and Blue Lake Mountain coveted my Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's Rainbow Fall Mystic Realm. That's why they came to my Rainbow Fall Sword Sect to kill our Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's core disciple." Guang Ruodong's face turned red and didn't speak again. What Xian Chanqiu said was the truth. They all came here to take over Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's mystic realm. But now that Ning Cheng had come out, he changed his words to reason. Boom! In front of countless onlookers, Lian Yan's body exploded into a terrifying celestial essence. He finally chose to self-destruct. Ning Cheng had arranged the entrapment formation in a hurry. Therefore, Lian Yan's celestial essence explosion not only tore the entrapment formation apart but also turned the dueling platform into nothingness. However, the Sword Stone public square didn't suffer any damage. A young female cultivator quickly walked up to Ning Cheng and bowed, "Lan Yi greets Senior Ning. Many thanks for Senior's help." He addressed Qiao Jierui as elder brother because he wanted to stick gold on his face. Even if he was also an eternal-level powerhouse, Qiao Jierui wouldn't even glance at him. He had only spoken a few words to Qiao Jierui at a random gathering. Ning Cheng looked at the group of clowns in front of him with a sneer. He really wanted to use his time wheel to deal with them. However, he also understood that this matter had to be handled by Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's sect master Xian Chanqiu. After all, he couldn't stay here forever. Moreover, Xian Chanqiu was the sect master of this place. Chapter 839. Ning Cheng turned to Xian Chanqiu beside him and said, "You're the sect master of Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. You can handle it." Xian Chanqiu immediately stood up when he heard Ning Cheng's words. "Because of Universal Development Sect's bullying, my Rainbow Fall Sword Sect suffered a huge loss this time." Before Xian Chanqiu could finish his words, Chu Xusheng quickly spoke up, Yes. This time, we were bewitched by other sections. We should compensate Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. I suggest that each sect come up with a star vein, 100 million perpetual moon pills, and 1 million permanent essence pills. In addition, we should give up 10 spots to enter the Sifting Forest Mystic Realm. Ning Qing didn't know what the Sifting Forest Mystic Realm was, but he guessed that it should be something similar to the Time Wilderness. But he sneered in his heart. This Chu Xusheng's dream was too beautiful. Compensation? With such a thing happening, even if he didn't kill them all, these sects would have to give up the Sifting Forest Star. To Ning Chang's surprise, Xian Chanshu hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement with Chu Xusheng's words. Sect Master Chu is right. Everyone was bewitched by Universal Development Sect this time. Now that Universal Development Sect's Sect Master has fallen, we should be united. As for compensation, let's follow Sect Master Chu's words. Ning Qing frowned slightly, but he quickly understood Xian Chanshu's meaning. When he let Xian Chanshu take charge, Xian Chanshu understood that he wouldn't stay in Rainbow Fall Sword Sect for long. Rainbow Fall Sword Sect's current momentum was built on him. Once he left, if Rainbow Fall Sword Sect offended too many sects, it wouldn't be able to survive in Sifting Forest Star. As a sect master, Xian Chanshu's consideration was the right one. Seeing Xian Chanshu's gaze, Ning Qing waved his hand, just follow Sect Master Xian's words, except for one sect. Ning Qing walked up to the only remaining elder of Universal Development Sect and said coldly, 2 things. First, Universal Development Sect will send the culprits who killed Feng Kong to Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. Second, Universal Development Sect will get the hell out of Sifting Forest Star. Yes, Senior. It was Bao Xian and Liang Qiuqi who forced Feng Kong to kill him. My Universal Development Sect will definitely leave the Sifting Forest Star as soon as possible. How could this elder dare to say anything else? After he finished speaking, he quickly retreated. Universal Development Sect tried to force Rainbow Fall Sword Sect to retreat, but the result was the complete opposite. Instead of forcing Rainbow Fall Sword Sect to retreat, they ended up forcing them to retreat. The elders and sect masters of the several major academies were even more determined to establish a good relationship with the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. Since Universal Development Sect withdrew from the Sifting Forest Star, Rainbow Fall Sword Sect had to take over the mineral veins and spiritual lands left behind by Universal Development Sect. Sect Master Ning, many years ago, I met a Rainbow Fall Sword Sect disciple from the Graceful Star mainland in Grand Culmination Starry Sky. His name was Rui Baishan. Before Xian Chanshu could finish, Ning Qing interrupted him. Did you say that Sect Master Rui Baishan also came here? Xian Chanshu initially thought that Ning Qing was Rui Baishan's senior. But now that he heard Ning Qing address Rui Baishan as Sect Master, respectfully, he realized that Ning Qing wasn't Rui Baishan's senior. He could no longer continue to call out Rui Baishan's name directly and carefully spoke up. Yes, Sect Master Rui followed me to the Rainbow Fall Sword Sect for half a year before heading to the Starry Skies alone to gain experience. Ning Qing had some understanding of Rui Baishan. He knew that this person was a very strong person, and was very good at seizing opportunities. Rui Baishan wouldn't stay in the sect and become a dead cultivator. Ning Qing nodded, I'm going to leave this place. If you need anything, you can come to Grand Culmination Starry Sky's mysterious yellow celestial river to find me. The mysterious yellow celestial river is mine, and the mysterious yellow sect is a sect that I just established. If Rainbow Fall Sword Sect faces any restrictions in the future, you can go to the mysterious yellow celestial river. When Xian Chanshu heard that Ning Qing had also established his own sect, his expression turned even more respectful. He also vaguely guessed that Ning Qing wasn't a disciple trained by Graceful Star Mainland's Rainbow Fall Sword Sect. Otherwise, Ning Qing wouldn't have established his own sect. Seeing Ning Qing about to leave, Yu Yayan quickly came forward to thank him. She found that the vine marks on her wrists had disappeared after the fight. Ning Qing must have taken them away. Ning Qing then said to Xian Chanshu, Yu Yayun is a good disciple. Give her a safe cave and focus on cultivation. Xian Chanshu naturally knew that Ning Qing had helped Yu Yayun. But before Ning Qing left, he specifically asked him to take care of Yu Yayun. Therefore, Xian Chanshu immediately understood that Ning Qing had taken a fancy to Yu Yayun. Yu Yayun's current appearance would indeed arouse a man's interest, so it wasn't surprising that Ning Qing took a fancy to her. Thinking of this, Xian Chanxiu quickly said, "Sect Master Ning, rest assured. I will definitely take care of Yu Yayun." If Ning Qing knew about Xian Chanxiu's thoughts, he would have kicked him. The reason why he said those words just now had nothing to do with Yu Yayun. It was because he knew that Yu Yayun had a life and death cultivator's ring on her. If he didn't ask Xian Chanxiu to take care of her, he wouldn't have helped Yu Yayun but harmed her. Yu Yayun's face turned slightly red. Even if Ning Qing liked her, she wouldn't change her mind. She only had Liang Yi in her heart. Even if Liang Yi fell, she wouldn't change her mind. Just when she was thinking about how to let her aunt bring her thoughts to the sect master, Ning Qing cupped his fists towards the sect master, Yu Bo, and the others and said, "I'm leaving. If you need anything, you can come to Stately River Star to find me." After saying this, Ning Qing stepped into the void and disappeared, leaving not even a trace behind. Yu Yayun felt slightly relieved. She knew that she and the sect master had overthought things. If Ning Qing really had feelings for her, he would have sent her a voice transmission before leaving. Chasing Bull controlled the starry sky will to travel through the starry sky while Ning Qing took out the celestial river flame and void shimmering light crystal. He wanted to upgrade the celestial river flame's grade first. The void shimmering light crystal looked like a space-type crystal on the surface and seemed hollow. But once one's spiritual consciousness penetrated it, one could feel the heat coming from the thousands of shimmering lights. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness couldn't linger inside and could only withdraw as soon as it touched it. As soon as the celestial river flame and the void shimmering light crystal came into contact, the brilliant celestial river flame created a spark. The moment the celestial river flame swept away the void shimmering light crystal, the dazzling brilliance instantly lit up the entire starry sky wheel like a rising sun. Chasing Bull, who controlled the starry sky wheel, was startled by the sudden burst of dazzling light. But it quickly understood that its master was upgrading the flame and quickly concentrated on controlling the starry sky wheel. In just an incense stick worth of time, the dazzling light on the surface of the celestial river flame dissipated. The celestial river flame floated in front of Ning Cheng, looming like a vast and boundless celestial river. 6 almost invisible golden flame lines suspended on the surface of the celestial river flame, looking like 6 galaxies in the starry sky. It looked very beautiful. Ning Cheng also felt the joy of the celestial river flame and the higher temperature of the celestial river flame. Ning Cheng didn't wait and took out the Nirvana's heart. The celestial river flame had already advanced to a grade 6 starry sky flame. Since he had the Nirvana's heart, he naturally wanted to upgrade the celestial river flame to the next level and become the spirit grade flame that old man Kong he mentioned. Previously, when Ning Cheng took out the void shimmering light crystal, the celestial river flame had only produced a spark before absorbing the void shimmering light crystal into the flame. At this time, when Ning Cheng took out the Nirvana's heart, the celestial river flame, which had already reached the grade 6 starry sky flame, gave out a joyful screech, and the entire flame rushed towards it. At this time, Ning Cheng could only see the terrifying temperature coming from the Nirvana's heart intertwining with the celestial river flame within the flame. Ning Cheng tried to extend his spiritual consciousness inside, but just as his spiritual consciousness touched the Nirvana's heart, the terrifying heat swept away it. Ning Cheng quickly retracted his spiritual consciousness. The celestial river flame was still evolving and couldn't fully suppress the Nirvana's heart. As such, his spiritual consciousness couldn't observe it for now. Although his spiritual consciousness couldn't sweep in, Ning Cheng could clearly see that the celestial river flame was gradually converging. The vast celestial river flame seemed to have hidden itself, and the bright surface of the flame also became ordinary. If not for the flame's temperature continuing to rise, Ning Cheng would have thought that the celestial river flame wasn't evolving, but regressing. As the Nirvana's heart in the center of the celestial river flame grew weaker, the celestial river flame also became more ordinary. After an unknown amount of time, when the Nirvana's heart in the center of the celestial river flame completely disappeared, the celestial river flame turned completely dim. Was this dim celestial river flame? Ning Cheng quickly discovered the difference. If the celestial river flame before looked like a vast and boundless celestial river, then the current celestial river flame looked like an endless starry sky. Although the bright brilliance on the surface had disappeared, it still contained an endless celestial river flame. If one didn't enter this part of the starry sky, one wouldn't know what this part of the starry sky contained. While Ning Cheng was still observing the celestial river flame, the dim flame fell into Ning Cheng's palm, bringing with it a sense of intimacy. Ning Cheng's mind once again connected with the celestial river flame, and Ning Cheng immediately felt a terrifying temperature. Ning Cheng muttered to himself in shock, "Is this the celestial river flame of the god rank?" He had never used this flame before. But Ning Cheng had a hunch that this flame could burn everything in the starry sky, even the void. Compared to the starry sky flames, the god rank flame was simply too abnormal. After Ning Cheng muttered to himself, the celestial river flame unexpectedly transmitted a thought to him, "Yes, Master, I just advanced to the spirit flame realm." Ning Cheng slapped his head speechlessly. Chasing Bull, this fool, caused all his pets to call him Master. Even a flame called him Master. This must have been influenced by Chasing Bull. Chasing Bull, who was still controlling the starry sky wheel, sneezed a few times. It seemed to realize that its master was scolding it behind its back. It quickly shrank its head and increased the speed of the starry sky wheel. Ning Cheng raised his hand and took out the Nirvana spear and said, "Hurry up and see if you can melt it." Ning Cheng searched everywhere for materials to upgrade his flame. Apart from improving his strength after upgrading his flame, the more important purpose was to melt the Nirvana spear. Only by melting the Nirvana spear could he refine it into a spirit-transforming spear. Ning Cheng felt extremely excited when he took out the Nirvana spear and let the flame refine it. He felt sure that the celestial river flame could refine the Nirvana spear. The celestial river flame had already advanced to the highest grade of flame in this part of the starry sky. It would have been strange if it couldn't melt the Nirvana spear. But a few days later, the disappointment in Ning Cheng's eyes grew even stronger. Not to mention melting the Nirvana spear, the celestial river flame couldn't even burn a mark on it. At this time, the celestial river flame also transmitted a shameful thought, "Master, my level is too low to melt the Nirvana spear." Chapter 840. Ning Cheng felt even more certain that the Nirvana spear was made from an extraordinary material. Although the celestial river flame had evolved to such a degree, it still couldn't melt the Nirvana spear. What kind of grade did it have? No matter what grade it was, the celestial river flame could not be refined. Ning Cheng could only put away the Nirvana spear and concentrate on studying the teleportation array. After coming into contact with the laws of space, Ning Cheng's understanding of the Tao of arrays had become completely different from before. After several years of research on the Tao of array formations, coupled with the fusion of the laws of space, Ning Cheng's proficiency in the Tao of array formations soared. After coming into contact with the laws of space, it only took him a month to become a true array Tao master, which he had been unable to break through in the past few years. As long as he had enough materials, he could arrange an array formation that surpassed Starry Sky Grade 9. The more you learn, the more ignorant you become. This sentence was just too appropriate for Ning Cheng. Previously, Ning Cheng thought that as long as he advanced to the array Tao master realm, even if he couldn't accurately modify the teleportation array to a fixed location, he could at least arrange it to meet his requirements, which was to teleport to a place not far from the other end. Only after advancing to become an array Tao master did Ning Cheng realize how ridiculous his idea was. Even though he had advanced to become an array Tao master, he was still unable to change the teleportation array into what he had imagined. After hesitating for a long time, Ning Cheng finally took out the array pattern. Although he was thinking of using this array pattern if he couldn't complete the long-distance teleportation array's one-way teleportation, he still wanted to keep it in his heart. At this moment, he would definitely not be able to complete this teleportation array in a short period of time. He would not be able to do it without using the array pattern. What he was worried about now was not the exhaustion of the array pattern, but whether this array pattern was of a high enough grade. If the grade of the array pattern was not high enough, even if he used it, he would not be able to complete this one-way teleportation array. Opening the jade box, Ning Cheng raised his hand and shot out a faintly discernible circular array pattern. The array pattern landed on the teleportation array like a stone thrown into a calm lake. Circle after circle of ripples spread out, and in just a few breaths, the entire structure of the transmission array appeared in Ning Cheng's mind. The array foundation, the array heart, and even the nature of the laws of space used for it all fell into Ning Cheng's grasp. Ning Cheng immediately immersed himself in it. Some things that were originally blurry became clear under this array pattern. Countless array Dao concepts that he had never come into contact with before were accepted by him at this moment, and then integrated into his own. Ning Cheng subconsciously threw out a few array flags, causing the transmission array to quickly change. An hour later, the rippling array pattern finally disappeared, causing Ning Cheng to suddenly wake up. He wasn't disappointed at all. Instead, he was filled with intense surprise. With the help of the formation pattern, he completed the one-way teleportation. At this point, as long as he threw the permanent essence pill into the array slot, he could activate the teleportation array. Ning Cheng gave out a sigh of relief. For this transmission array, he had spent many years, and now he had finally completed the arrangement of this one-way transmission array. Furthermore, because of this teleportation array, his understanding of array Dao had reached a whole new level. After sealing the teleportation array under the Thorn-Tooth Lake, Ning Cheng returned to Jiangzhou Star. Even if he wanted to leave, he intended to take Luofei and Ruolin with him. Before Ning Cheng arrived at Stately River Star, his spiritual consciousness swept towards Tsang Saihe on the public square outside Stately River Star. Not only was Tsang Saihe here, but Ning Ruolin, Luofei, and even Ning Ruoqing were also here. Gongxiu Zhu and Bei Junyi, who were in charge of Stately River Star and mysterious Yellow Celestial River, were also here. Opposite them stood a man and a woman. The two had arrogant looks on their faces and seemed to be confronting Tsang Saihe and the others. It shouldn't be a big deal. If it were a big deal, Tsang Saihe would have already sent a message to him. However, Ning Cheng still felt a little unhappy. Even after coming to Stately River Star, they still acted so arrogantly. They even brought out Tsang Saihe. From the looks of it, this man and woman didn't seem to be modest people. Putting away the starry sky wheel, Ning Cheng and Chasing Bull landed on the public square outside Stately River Star. As soon as Ning Cheng returned, Tsang Saihe and the others saw him. Ji Luofei and Ning Ruolin quickly came up, with Ji Luofei's eyes filled with longing. Seeing Ning Ruolin advance to the Celestial Gatherer realm, Ning Cheng felt very happy. No matter how many cultivation resources he had, if he couldn't convert them into his own strength, it would be useless. Since Ning Ruolin had advanced to the Celestial Gatherer realm, it showed that she had been working very hard in secluded cultivation. Ning Ruoqing also felt happy on seeing Ning Cheng come back. She stepped in front of Ning Cheng and spoke with joy, "You came back at the right time. My cultivation has recovered a lot. If that Lu comes again, I'll slap him to death." Tsang Saihe and the others also came over to greet Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng quickly said to Ning Ruoqing, "We'll talk about this later when we get back." Ning Cheng had just greeted the crowd, but did not have the time to ask who this man and woman were, when the woman gave a snort and spoke, "Finally someone who can speak, are you that Ning Cheng?" Ning Cheng didn't answer the woman's words. Instead, his gaze swept over the man and woman. Not only did the two of them look terrifyingly young, but their cultivations were also terrifyingly high. This man and woman didn't look like the kind of powerhouses who dominated a region. Moreover, they didn't have many traces of starry sky tempering. Yet, both of them had this kind of cultivation. How could Ning Cheng not feel surprised? He had fought desperately in the starry sky, and he even had the mysterious yellow bead. Yet, after so many years, he only reached the early stage eternal realm. Moreover, this man and woman not only looked young but also had powerful cultivation. Moreover, they also looked very beautiful. It wasn't appropriate to use the word beautiful to describe the man. But in Ning Cheng's eyes, this man was truly beautiful. Not only did he have exquisite facial features, but his skin also looked like a woman's. From his aura and Adam's apple, Ning Cheng could tell that he wasn't a woman in disguise. The woman didn't lose out to the man, but she looked younger. She had a tall stature and a voluptuous chest. The pretty girl's face combined with her curvaceous figure gave people a visual impact. If it weren't for her arrogant demeanor and her eyes looking up to the sky, this beautiful face would have given people a good impression of her at first glance. Brother, these two people say they're from Butterfly Mountain. They've been here for many days, but they speak as if someone owes them a planet. Ning Rulan whispered from the side. Butterfly Mountain? Ning Qing frowned slightly. He knew about this place. It was a place that even the 4 starry sky emperors feared. Duan Gantai said that he was from Butterfly Mountain. But he had never had anything to do with these people. So what were these people doing here? Sang Saiha saw Ning Qing frowning and quickly spoke up. They've been here for more than half a month and said they were looking for you. But because you weren't here, I didn't let them in. Today, they said that if you didn't come back to see them, they would leave. Then, Butterfly Mountain would list Jiangzhou Star as an unwelcome place. Hearing that these two people didn't do anything, Ning Cheng's expression turned a little better. As for Butterfly Mountain listing Jiangzhou Star as an unwelcome place, Ning Qing didn't care about it at all. He, Jiangzhou Star, didn't need to follow others to please them, not even Butterfly Mountain. I just asked you, are you Ning Cheng or not? The woman saw Ning Cheng ignore her and spoke up with a frown. Ning Cheng replied with a calm voice, yes, I'm Ning Cheng. I have nothing to do with your Butterfly Mountain, and my Jiangzhou Star doesn't want to have anything to do with your Butterfly Mountain in the future. Please leave. The woman snorted again and said, then I'll tell you, we don't have anything to do with each other. My name is Duan Qian, and I come from Butterfly Mountain. This is my cousin, Yin Xiushan, also from Butterfly Mountain. We came here to ask you one thing. Where did that thief Duan Gantai go? Ning Qing understood from this woman's words that this was a young lady who always stayed at home in secluded cultivation. She rarely went out and rarely interacted with others. Even if she wanted to inquire about Duan Gantai's whereabouts, she wouldn't say anything about this thief. Wasn't it clear that she wanted to capture Duan Gantai? If he had a friendship with Duan Gantai, she would have provided him with a piece of information. Ning Qing felt a little angry, but after knowing that this woman was an idiot, his anger disappeared. Getting angry with such a person would only bring trouble to himself. Ning Qing replied unhurriedly, how would I know where Duan Gantai went? He is him, and I am me. My Jiangzhou Star doesn't have the person you're looking for, so I won't be seeing you off. Hearing Ning Cheng's disrespectful words, Duan Qian's face turned cold. A layer of frost covered her pretty face. Usually, as long as they mentioned the two words Butterfly Mountain, they would be respected and treated as VIPs wherever they went. They never expected that a small Jiangzhou Star would dare to put on airs. If not for the strict orders before coming here, Jiangzhou Star's Tsang Saiho wouldn't have given them any reason to act up. They had waited outside Jiangzhou Star for more than 10 days and would have long since made their move. According to the news we heard, you and Duan Gantai have a good relationship and have worked together several times. Last time, you even participated in the auction in the Devil Domain. The last time Duan Gantai disappeared was after the auction in the Devil Domain. Are you sure you want to help him hide the news? Don't blame me for not reminding you of the consequences of offending my Butterfly Mountain. Maybe in the next moment, your Jiangzhou Star will turn into dust. If you take my words as a threat, it's fine. Duan Qian, who felt very dissatisfied with Ning Cheng's attitude, sneered. Ning Cheng's face turned cold. He didn't want to argue with these two inexperienced people, but it didn't mean that others could threaten his Jiangzhou Star. Get out of here, or don't blame me for being impolite. So what if it was Butterfly Mountain? Whoever offended his Jiangzhou Star, don't blame him for sending them back. You're courting death. Duan Qian almost trembled with anger when she heard Ning Qing telling her to get out. When had she ever suffered such grievances, especially in a small place like Jiangzhou Star? At the same time as Duan Qian's murderous domain stretched out, Yin Xiushan, who stood next to her, also released his murderous aura. Although he hadn't said a word until now, he also felt unhappy with Ning Cheng in his heart. Jiangzhou Star was just a small planet, yet he dared to tell people from Butterfly Mountain to fuck off. Did he want to fight? The moment the two people's murderous domains stretched out, Ning Cheng's domain also blasted out. He wasn't a gentle and easygoing person like Zhang Caihe. Crack. Even if Yin Xiushan and Duan Qian's domains overlapped, they couldn't stop Ning Cheng's domain and instantly shattered. The two people's expressions changed. They raised their hands, and two lights from weapons appeared over their heads. Stop. Just when the fight was about to break out, a shout arrived, and then a blue light fell on the public square outside Jiangzhou Star. Chapter 841. It was a middle-aged man in a green robe, dressed like a Confucian scholar. Even though he was a middle-aged man, it did not detract from his extraordinary handsomeness. Butterfly Mountain's Duan Wenbai greets Sect Master Ning. My Butterfly Mountain's disciples have offended you before. On behalf of Butterfly Mountain, I would like to apologize to Sect Master Ning. I hope that Sect Master Ning will not haggle over these juniors. This middle-aged man had an excellent demeanor. After reprimanding Duan Qian and Yin Xiushan, he spoke to Ning Cheng in an extremely polite manner. His words were not only polite, but they also made people feel comfortable. After Duan Wenbai greeted Ning Cheng, he cupped his fists towards Zhang Caihe again and said, "This should be the Starry Sky's premier Pill Emperor, Brother Zhang. It's an honor to see the elegance of the premier Pill Emperor today." No matter how arrogant Duan Qian and Yin Xiushan were, they didn't dare to spout nonsense in front of Duan Wenbai. Now that the two of them heard Duan Wenbai being so polite to Ning Cheng, and even said that the two of them were Ning Cheng's juniors, it immediately caused the two of them to be shocked. Although they had never walked within the starry skies, they were still middle-stage eternal powerhouses. For two eternal-level cultivators to respect Ning Cheng as a senior, wouldn't that make Ning Cheng a terrifying existence? However, when the two of them thought about how their superimposed domains couldn't compare to Ning Cheng's domain, they both felt a little puzzled. It seemed that what Uncle Master Wenbai had said was true, this Ning Cheng really was somewhat powerful. Ning Cheng also cupped his fists and replied, "I dare not, I am the mysterious yellow sect Master Ning Cheng." Ning Cheng also couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The three people from the Butterfly Mountain were either handsome or beautiful. That Duan Gantai also came from Butterfly Mountain, so why was he so ugly? This Duan Wenbai's cultivation was very strong and should not be any weaker than Wu Yuankong. Duan Wenbai saw that Ning Cheng didn't invite him to Stately River Star and understood that Ning Cheng didn't have any good impression of Butterfly Mountain. Therefore, he spoke up directly, "I heard that Duan Gantai once had a relationship with Sect Master Ning." After a pause, he added, "This question is a bit presumptuous, I hope Sect Master Ning doesn't mind it. I asked him because Duan Gantai is also a disciple of my Butterfly Mountain." Ning Cheng nodded, "It's true. I had some problems with Duan Gantai. The reason why we worked together in the Devil Domain was because he had obtained the radish grass, while I could refine the radish grass into Eternal Emperor Continuance pills. After that collaboration, I haven't seen him again. So that's how it is." Duan Wenbai suddenly spoke, he did not know if he believed Ning Cheng's words or not. On the other hand, Duan Qian and Yin Xiushan breathed in a sigh of relief. This sect Master Ning still wanted Eternal Emperor Continuance pills, which meant that he didn't look like much. Seventh Grand Elder's previous words were probably just to scare them. Ning Cheng didn't have a good impression of Duan Gantai, so he naturally wouldn't help Duan Gantai hide anything. He then took out a piece of connecting spirit silk and handed it to Duan Wenbai before saying, "This connecting spirit silk was given to me by Duan Gantai for that brief cooperation. Now that the cooperation is over, if Duan Gantai wants to find me, he would open the connecting spirit silk. Now, I will give this connecting spirit silk to Brother Duan. I hope that Brother Duan can find your Butterfly Mountain disciples as soon as possible." As such, Ning Cheng didn't mind using it against Duan Gantai. This connecting spirit silk was of no use to him. If Duan Gantai dared to look for him again, then he could only wait for Duan Wenbai to teach him a lesson. As for the two idiots, Duan Qian and Yin Xiushan, even if they managed to stop Duan Gantai, Ning Cheng estimated that these two fellows wouldn't be enough to feed Duan Gantai. Seeing that Ning Qing even took out the connecting spirit silk, Duan Wenbai felt overjoyed and quickly took the connecting spirit silk. Many thanks, Sect Master Ning. Butterfly Mountain welcomes Sect Master Ning at any time. If one day, Sect Master Ning decides to leave this side of the starry sky, remember to take a trip to Butterfly Mountain. Ning Qing froze for a moment. He wanted to leave this part of the starry sky, but what did it have to do with Butterfly Mountain? Duan Wenbai, on seeing Ning Cheng's doubts, quickly said, "There is a starry sky boundary point near my Butterfly Mountain. This boundary point leads to a high-level interface. That's where the people from the Grand Essence Realm came from." Ning Cheng looked at Duan Wenbai and asked, "Brother Duan, did your Butterfly Mountain know that people from the Grand Essence Realm went to the mysterious Yellow Starland?" Duan Wenbai faintly smiled. "Of course. My Butterfly Mountain is guarding this boundary point, so how could we not know that someone is coming from there? It's just that the old ancestor has yet to come out of seclusion, so our Butterfly Mountain can only endure it for now. It is all thanks to Sect Master Ning that we managed to eradicate all these outsiders." After saying that, Duan Wenbai bowed to Ning Cheng and cupped his fists. Ning Cheng looked calm on the surface, but he sneered in his heart. Butterfly Mountain's existence was to guard the boundary point? How fucking shameless. Just by going into seclusion, he had already killed hundreds of millions of cultivators in the mysterious Yellow Starland. How could such a person have the nerve to call himself a boundary point? When he went to the mysterious Yellow Starland with Chuan Xinlo and the others, there wasn't even a shadow of Butterfly Mountain. Even someone like Chuan Xinlo knew that he couldn't let the Ninth Prince's group mess around in this part of the starry sky, so he invited him to the mysterious Yellow Starland. As a guardian, Butterfly Mountain used such a ridiculous excuse to inform the old ancestor to come out of seclusion. From the looks of it, Butterfly Mountain already knew about the existence of the 5 Grand Realms. They stayed at that boundary point and had nothing to do with guarding it. They just wanted to find a chance to leave this place. Ning Qing felt disdain in his heart, but he still spoke with a calm voice, "I don't have the ability to kill the people from the Grand Essence Realm. They had internal strife, and both sides suffered heavy losses. That's why I barely managed to escape from the mysterious Yellow Starland. Otherwise, I would have already died there. Sect Master Ning is too modest. Think about that Ninth Prince, even my Butterfly Mountain's old ancestor might not be able to control him. Yet, Sect Master Ning easily injured him. My Butterfly Mountain's old ancestor specifically told me to invite Sect Master Ning to Butterfly Mountain as a guest when I come to Stately River Star." Duan Wenbai spoke with a straight face. Ning Qing frowned slightly. During the battle in Moi City, no one from Butterfly Mountain should have been there. Yet, Brother Duan seems to have been there in person. Only Shen Mengyan had seen him injure Ninth Prince Manjuran. Moreover, Shen Mengyan and Pan Qian had already left this part of the starry sky, so they would never tell on him. Duan Wenbai spoke up with admiration. Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor and the others wanted to leave the boundary point. At my Butterfly Mountain's invitation, the 4 of them came to my Butterfly Mountain as guests and even held a treasure exchange at my Butterfly Mountain. Because of this, I realized just how thrilling the battle in Moi City was. Sect Master Ning single-handedly turned the tide. My Butterfly Mountain felt ashamed apart from admiration. So, it turned out that Chuan Xinlo and the others leaked it. Ning Qing nodded and thought to himself, "Since your Butterfly Mountain is so shameless, don't say such a shameful thing." After a while, Ning Qing asked again, "Brother Duan, I remember that 9 Phoenix Heavenly Emperor didn't leave with Chuan Xinlo and the others, right? How could there be 4 of them?" Duan Wenbai chuckled. "It seems that Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor returned a breaking boundary talisman to 9 Phoenix Heavenly Emperor. That's why 9 Phoenix Heavenly Emperor didn't leave with Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor and returned to the Grand Spirit Heaven Starry Sky first. As for whether she left this place or not, I really don't know. But I'm sure that she didn't go to the boundary point again." Ning Qing cupped his fists. "Many thanks for Brother Duan's information. If I go to the boundary point in the future, I will definitely visit Butterfly Mountain." "Okay, then I'll be looking forward to Sect Master Ning's arrival." After saying that, he took out a jade strip and handed it to Ning Cheng. Sect Master Ning, this is my Butterfly Mountain Starry Sky directional jade strip. When Sect Master Ning goes there, just follow the instructions in the jade strip and you will arrive at my Butterfly Mountain. After giving the jade strip to Ning Cheng, Duan Wenbai left with Duan Xian and Yin Xiushan. Ning Cheng didn't invite Duan Wenbai to Stately River Star but returned to the mysterious yellow sect with Tsang Saiha and the others. Seventh Elder Taoist, why were you so polite to that surnamed Ning? After leaving Stately River Star, Duan Xian muttered with some unwillingness. Ning Cheng dared to tell her to get lost. If not for Seventh Elder Taoist, she would have definitely taught that Ning Cheng a lesson. So what if he crushed their domains? How could a sect master of a small sect compare to her Butterfly Mountain's methods? Moreover, that Ning Cheng had just started looking for Eternal Emperor continuance pills not long ago. Presumably, his cultivation wasn't that high. What was the use of having a strong domain? Duan Wenbai gave a cold snort. You can seek death, but don't pull my Butterfly Mountain into it. I remember that before we came out, we repeatedly told you not to think that just because you came from Butterfly Mountain, you shouldn't be so arrogant. If I hadn't come here in time today, you too would have died a long time ago. At that time, my Butterfly Mountain would have gained another powerful enemy. Seeing the two suppressed by him, Duan Wenbai spoke up with an even harsher voice, that Ning Cheng's cultivation isn't any lower than our ancestors. You two can't even withstand a slap from him. Ah! Duan Xian and Yin Xiushan felt truly stunned. They naturally knew about the strength of Butterfly Mountain's ancestor. How could Ning Cheng, this seemingly ordinary cultivator, compare to their ancestor? Duan Wenbai's tone turned cold. If he didn't have this ability, the ninth prince would have already killed him in the mysterious Yellow Starland. The reason why our ancestor didn't stop the ninth prince was not only because of the ninth prince's background, but also because he was afraid that the ninth prince and the ninth prince would have suffered heavy losses. But that sect master Ning could seriously injure the ninth prince and return to Stately River Star unscathed. How strong do you think he is? Maybe you aren't familiar with the ninth prince, but you should know about the Traceless Immortal Pond, right? I know about this. When we came out, Master told us not to go to the Traceless Immortal Pond casually. Especially Traceless Immortal Pond sect master Wu Yuankong, whose cultivation isn't any lower than my Butterfly Mountain's Grand Elder. Duan Xian nodded quickly. Duan Wenbai sighed, that was when you first came out. But now, Traceless Immortal Pond only exists in name. 2 years ago, Traceless Immortal Pond's sect master Wu Yuankong and several eternal elders of Traceless Immortal Pond died at the hands of sect master Ning. What? Duan Xian and Yin Xiushan exclaimed at the same time. Then, cold sweat poured down their backs. With Ning Cheng's strength, they could imagine that if the seventh elder Taoist hadn't found them in time, they would have already died outside Stately River Star. Within Ning Cheng's cave in covered Snow City, only Ning Cheng, Ning Ruolin, Ji Luofei, and Ning Ruoqing were present. I'll be leaving Stately River Star for a while soon. Because I haven't found a way back. Brother, are you leaving this place? Without waiting for Ning Cheng to finish, Ning Ruolin asked eagerly. Her eyes showed strong reluctance. She really didn't want to separate from her big brother again. Ji Luofei also felt the same. She naturally didn't want to separate from Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng smiled, this time, I plan to take you with me. I still have a true spirit world. Then, will Lian Dai, Xian, Li Lingfan, Zhang Qian, and the others also come with you? Ning Ruolin asked quickly. Although she and Helian Dai weren't blood-related sisters, they were no different from blood sisters. If Helian Dai left here alone, she would never feel at ease. If Helian Dai wanted to leave with them, then Helian Mingzhe, Li Lingfan, Luo Xian, Zhang Qian, and the others would also have to leave. No matter who stayed behind, it wouldn't be good. Chapter 842. Ning Cheng hesitated for a moment before speaking, I'm afraid that won't work. I don't even know where I'm going this time, but I'm going to find Yan Ji. After all, the true spirit world was not the mysterious yellow bead, and its laws were far worse than stately river star. Ning Qing suspected that the place he wanted to go this time might be a high-level positional plane. If something happened and caused the true spirit world to collapse, what would he do then? If it was only Rulin and Luofei, he could still bring the two of them into the mysterious yellow bead. However, with the addition of many outsiders, once something happened, he would not have the ability to bring others into the mysterious yellow bead. Even if he had the ability to do so, the mysterious yellow bead was something that, other than the people closest to him, it would be very dangerous for others to know about it. Besides, he didn't know how long he would be gone. Li Lingfan, Luo Zian, and the others staying in stately river star to cultivate was obviously much better than cultivating behind him. At the very least, they could still go to the starry sky to train with him. Before he had enough strength, they could only stay in the true spirit world. Brother, my cultivation is still too low. Jiangzhou star is as stable as Mount Tai in this part of the starry sky. If I stay here and cultivate, I might make faster progress than following you. Why don't you and sister-in-law go first? Rulin said hesitantly. She understood what her brother meant. The place they were going to this time should be a bit dangerous. With her cultivation, she would only be a burden if she followed behind her brother. It was better to stay here and cultivate until his strength increased. Ji Luofei, who had not spoken until now, also took the initiative to speak up. I'm about to break through to the heaven-seated realm soon. I don't feel at ease leaving Rulin here alone. Now that everyone is in Jiangzhou Star, we can take care of each other. Ning Qing was moved in his heart. He had already gone to look for Yan Ji before coming back. He still had two similar world-breaking talismans. Although the teleportation formation was far away, he could probably return here with the world-breaking talismans. Although bringing Rulin and Luofei together was a good thing, it would put everyone in more danger. Moreover, it would not help their cultivation much. There were many cultivation resources in the true spirit world, but the true spirit world's heaven and earth laws were far from comparable to those of the outside world. As an eternal-level powerhouse, Ning Qing naturally understood that understanding the laws of heaven and earth would determine the height a cultivator could reach. I will also stay in stately river star. I have to continue my secluded cultivation, and there are many things that I can't remember. No one dares to come here. Even if that Lu guy comes, I'll send him flying. Ning Ruoqing spoke up casually. Compared to when she first came to stately river star with Ning Qing, her thoughts were much clearer. Alright, I'll be back as soon as possible. Before Rulin and Luofei reach the heaven-seated realm, don't leave Jiangzhou Star. After Ning Qing finished, he took out 3 storage rings and prepared the cultivation resources for them. After the 3 of them put away the rings, Ning Qing took out a white circle and a jade box before handing it to Ning Rulin. What is this? Ning Rulin received the 2 things in doubt. Ning Qing pointed to the white circle and spoke in a cautious tone, this magical weapon is the Serene Water 9 pattern loop. It is of a very high grade. Since Luofei already has the glaze scroll, I will give it to you. Inside that jade box is an essence dragon soul. When your cultivation base is a bit higher, you can refine this essence dragon soul as a means of self-protection. The grade of the glaze scroll was very high. With this painting scroll, Luofei would definitely have the means to protect herself. On the other hand, Rulin didn't have a good weapon. This time, Ning Qing left these 2 things to Rulin because Rulin's cultivation was too low. Ning Qing had taken the Serene Water 9 patterned loop from Wu Yuankong. It was a powerful weapon and suitable for Rulin. As for the Essence Dragon Soul, Ning Qing didn't refine it after obtaining it. He didn't need such a powerful assistant right now, so he gave it to Rulin. Ning Ruoqing's cultivation was higher than his, so Ning Qing left most of the things for Ning Ruoqing were star veins, space crystals, time stones, and so on. After Ning Rulin and the others went into seclusion, Ning Qing and Sung Saihe began to reinforce Jiangzhou Star's defensive array. Now that he had advanced to the Array Dao Master Realm, he had a lot of materials on him. Therefore, before leaving, he naturally wanted to upgrade Jiangzhou Star's defensive array. 2 months later, Ning Cheng left Jiangzhou Star. He gave some of the cultivation resources to Tsang Tsaiha and repaired Sifting Orchid in Jiangzhou Star. Sifting Orchid once again restored the appearance of the 5-star battle disc. Because Ning Cheng personally repaired it this time, he knew the battle disc Sifting Orchid like the back of his hand. With Ning Cheng's current cultivation, he didn't need Sifting Orchid as a means of transportation. Ning Cheng repaired Sifting Orchid because Sifting Orchid had once saved him. As for the unfinished top-grade Starry Sky battleship, Ning Cheng didn't have the time to care about it right now. Ning Cheng woke up to the seawater. He even drank a few mouthfuls of the salty and bitter seawater. He never thought that he would pass out during the teleportation process one day. In fact, he really did pass out. The moment the teleportation array under Thorn-Tooth Lake activated, he felt as if he had fallen into a void that transformed into countless different spaces every breath. Even Ning Cheng couldn't withstand such a horrifying spatial transformation. If Ning Cheng hadn't reached the late-stage Starry Sky body refining realm, he would have already turned into dust under such a terrifying spatial transformation. After waking up, Ning Cheng quickly spat out the seawater he had drunk. But even after waking up, he still felt some lingering fear. This must have been caused by his lack of proficiency in array formations. A true expert in array formations, even if it was a one-way teleportation, wouldn't let the person being teleported almost die during the spatial transformation. From this, Ning Cheng understood that even with the help of an array pattern, he still hadn't completed the teleportation array. However, Ning Cheng didn't have to worry about these things right now. Sweeping out with his spiritual consciousness, he found himself in a sea. All around him was a vast and boundless sea. Even his spiritual consciousness couldn't sweep to the edge. What shocked Ning Cheng even more was that there wasn't any Starry Sky spirit chi here. To be precise, there was an extremely thin aura in this place. Moreover, this aura seemed to be of a higher grade than Starry Sky spirit chi. However, this extremely thin aura didn't help one's cultivation at all. It was just like how Earth also had spirit chi, but the spirit chi here was almost non-existent. As such, it didn't help one's cultivation much. Ning Cheng sensed his body. Because of the tear caused by the one-way teleportation, his body looked like it was covered in void scratches. What made Ning Cheng feel a little happy was that he still had his cultivation. Ning Cheng was just about to rush out of the sea when a horrifying scream erupted. Following that, a white light shadow slammed into the sea 100 miles away from Ning Cheng. Boom! The loud sound almost shattered Ning Cheng's eardrums. Ning Cheng quickly stretched out his domain to protect himself. He understood that it was because of the fluctuations of magic power contained within the loud sound. The horrifying waves suddenly split apart, as if someone had suddenly torn the sea apart from both sides. This kind of powerful momentum made it so that the torn seawater couldn't recover for a while. At this moment, Ning Cheng's impression of the scene was that between the two waves, each several tens of thousands of feet high, there was a long gully split open. Then, a red-haired figure crossed the gully from his spiritual consciousness and quickly passed through it. The next moment, the waves rushed towards Ning Cheng, shattering Ning Cheng's domain inch by inch. Bang! The violent waves slammed into Ning Cheng's body and directly blew away Ning Cheng, who was covered in wounds. Just like some of the nearby fishes, he flew out like a kite with a broken string. Ning Cheng coughed up a mouthful of blood in the middle of the waves. He couldn't even resist. As the waves fell, Ning Cheng once again followed the waves and fell into the sea. Fortunately, the horrifying waves didn't come over again. Ning Cheng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and didn't rush out of the sea. Some of the huge fishes in the sea were smashed into pieces by the impact and scattered around Ning Cheng. The sea returned to its original appearance, as if the movement just now had never happened. Ning Cheng clenched his fists. Although he was only at the early stage Eternal Realm, his strength could sweep through a starry sky positional plane. But in this place, the aftermath of someone else's fight had almost killed him. Insignificant, he was just too insignificant. What the hell was this place? The starry sky essence chi was so thin, yet the cultivation was so abnormal. That red-haired figure had created such terrifying power with just a casual move. Goo goo, Ning Cheng's stomach growled, and a feeling of hunger washed over him. Even though Ning Cheng was still in the sea, he still felt startled by this feeling. Why did he feel hungry? One had to know that ever since he reached the essence-building realm, this feeling of hunger had disappeared. He had always relied on starry sky essence chi to replenish himself. Only on rare occasions would he eat something. It was all for the sake of his appetite. But now, in this place, he felt hungry. What the hell was going on? Ning Cheng quickly took out an airship Dao artifact that he had refined and threw it into the sea. At the same time, he jumped out of the sea and landed on the ship. After cleaning himself up, Ning Cheng immediately started to heal himself. It's just that his recovery speed in this place was not as fast as that in the 4 grand starry skies. Not only that, but after he absorbed the permanent essence pill, he felt less hungry, but his cultivation did not change at all. Ning Cheng's heart started to feel a bit gloomy. He vaguely felt that this was caused by the laws of heaven and earth in this place. The laws of heaven and earth here were much stronger than the laws of heaven and earth in the 4 grand starry skies positional plane. Therefore, the effects of his permanent essence pill cultivation were much weaker. Perhaps this place required a higher level of essence chi cultivation. Ning Cheng thought of the crystal stone that Yi Jiufeng had given him before she left. He took out the crystal stone and tried to absorb it. In just a few breaths, the crystal stone turned into flying ash in Ning Cheng's hand. Ning Cheng threw away the flying ash in his hand and sighed. He finally understood what was going on. After absorbing the crystal stone, the feeling of hunger suddenly weakened a lot. Moreover, his cultivation also started to rise a little. He could even feel his celestial essence changing, as if it was transforming into another kind of essence chi. Moreover, this essence chi was even more powerful than celestial essence. No wonder that red-haired fellow's attacks were so powerful. That fellow didn't use celestial essence at all, but a higher power. Ning Cheng muttered to himself. Chapter 843. Ning Cheng was still secretly thinking about what he should do, when a shadow covered the top of Ning Cheng's head. Ning Cheng immediately felt danger. At this moment, the surrounding space seemed to have been bound by a powerful force. Even if he wanted to break free, it would take him some time. Feeling anxious, Ning Cheng didn't have much time to think and immediately brought out the everlasting blue thunder fort. Boom! The pressure suddenly descended and landed on the everlasting blue thunder fort. The everlasting blue thunder fort, under the impact of this powerful force, issued a series of crackling sounds. For a moment, the sea surface splashed with lightning, and the powerful essence force blasted a huge hole in the seawater around Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng flew back under the force and spat out another mouthful of blood. Fortunately, he still had the everlasting blue thunder fort to block it. Otherwise, even with a starry sky body, he wouldn't have been able to withstand it. The binding force around him had just loosened a bit when Ning Cheng saw a bloody mouth open wide. Ning Cheng didn't even see what kind of demonic beast it was before crazily wielding the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. He definitely wasn't an opponent for this demonic beast. Facing such a powerful demonic beast, he had no other choice but to escape. The twin wings of the heavenly clouds brought out a faint glow and directly moved Ning Cheng away. The moment Ning Cheng teleported away, his shadow, which was still in the same place, got swallowed by the giant mouth. Ning Cheng, who was still in the air, saw this scene and quickly brought out the starry sky wheel. The sea demon that attacked Ning Cheng didn't seem to be good at flying. After seeing Ning Cheng leave, it didn't chase after him. Ning Cheng, on the other hand, broke out in a cold sweat. He had thought that this place was safe except for a few powerhouses. He didn't expect that a demonic beast would almost kill him. Thinking about how he had soaked in the seawater for a while, he couldn't help but feel some fear. If he hadn't come out of the sea and the demonic beast had attacked, he wouldn't have had time to escape. From the looks of it, he couldn't heal in this place. Even if he wanted to heal, he had to find a safe place. At this moment, Ning Cheng had no direction and could only control the starry sky wheel to fly forward. Fortunately, the speed of the starry sky wheel was still overbearing, and there were some powerful sea demons in this area. However, none of the sea demons could keep up with the starry sky wheel. After flying for a few days with the starry sky wheel, the shadows of several flight-type weapons appeared within Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness. Ning Cheng quickly stopped and replaced the starry sky wheel with an ordinary high-grade Dao artifact flight-type weapon. Within the 4 grand starry skies, Ning Cheng wasn't afraid of others finding out about the starry sky wheel. In this place, once a treasure like the starry sky wheel was recognized, it would no longer belong to him. Ning Cheng stopped a flight-type magical weapon, but what made him puzzled was that the cultivation of the cultivator on this flight-type magical weapon was even lower than his own. It looked like he only had the cultivation of life and death realm. This cultivator in the life and death realm could not see Ning Cheng's cultivation. Therefore, if he wanted to survive in this place, he would try not to offend anyone. Ning Cheng's flight-type magical weapon did not show any malice, and only made an inquiring gesture from the side. Therefore, after being stopped by Ning Cheng, he took the initiative to stop. "I wonder what this Dao friend wants?" the life and death cultivator asked in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng returned the courtesy and spoke, "I encountered a beast tide before, and lost the map of this part of the sea. I wonder if you could carve a jade slip for me." Even if it was just a question, Ning Cheng had to be careful. He could see that this cultivator seemed to be a celestial essence cultivator and hadn't transformed it into a more powerful force. Even so, he didn't want anyone to know that he came from another place. Naturally, the life and death cultivator didn't hesitate to take out a jade slip and throw it to Ning Cheng. At the same time, he controlled his flight-type magical weapon and quickly flew away. He didn't ask Ning Cheng for any compensation, which made Ning Cheng feel a little relieved. If the other party asked him for compensation, he only had permanent essence pills. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness immediately swept into the jade slip. After a few breaths, Ning Cheng put down the jade slip. This place belonged to the edge of the Grand Essence Sea, and one could say that it was the most worthless corner of the Grand Essence Sea. Not far from this place, there was a sea city called Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. The jade slip looked simple and didn't have any other introduction. It just showed the way to the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. Through this jade slip, Ning Cheng confirmed that this place was the Grand Essence Realm. The silver-haired woman had told him that the Grand Essence Sea was in the Grand Essence Realm. Moreover, the 9th Prince's father, whom he destroyed, seemed to be a powerhouse in the Grand Essence Sea. Ning Cheng then thought of the terrifying sea demons he encountered in the Grand Essence Sea and felt a strong sense of crisis in his heart. Those sea demons most likely belonged to the lowest level of existence, yet they almost killed him. How terrifying was the 9th Prince's father, who could dominate the Grand Essence Sea? However, Ning Cheng quickly put these thoughts aside. Not to mention whether that 9th Prince Manjuran could return to the Grand Essence Realm. Even if he returned to the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Cheng would have to wait until he recovered his corporeal body. The only thing that worried Ning Cheng was that Manjuran's father might help him. Once Manjuran's father went to Grand Culmination Starry Sky, it wouldn't be a good thing. He also understood that if Manjuran's father really went to Grand Culmination Starry Sky, even if he stayed there, he wouldn't be able to do anything except wait for death. There were too many threats, so Ning Cheng didn't think about it anymore. He controlled the flight-type magical weapon and flew towards the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. After knowing that this was the edge of the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Cheng felt even more shocked about the teleportation array in the Thorntooth Lake. It turned out to be a teleportation array that could break through positional planes. No wonder he couldn't arrange it with his current strength. It was equivalent to a child talisman of the opening heaven talisman. Ning Cheng felt a little regretful at this moment. He hadn't investigated where Liang Yi obtained that array pattern. That array pattern allowed him to activate the teleportation array in a one-way manner. Moreover, the grade of this array pattern was no lower than the opening heaven talisman's child talisman. A few days later, Ning Cheng stood outside a modeled city. He also saw a few modeled characters above the city, Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. Apart from that, this sea city looked too ordinary. Not to mention a city like the Eternal Heaven Starry Sky City, even the Ocean Gambling City, where Ning Cheng had just entered the Starry Sky, didn't look like this Spirit Sea City. As soon as Ning Cheng walked to the city gate, he felt a much richer essence chi aura compared to the sea. From this, he understood that the essence chi in the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City should be much richer. Cultivators kept coming in and out of the city gate, and Ning Cheng could feel the cultivation of these cultivators. The lowest among them was in the celestial scryer realm. There were simply too many eternal cultivators here. Moreover, there were also cultivators at the same level as Hong Luan and the Ninth Prince, which made Ning Cheng feel slightly relieved. At least in this place, he could still be considered as a powerhouse among powerhouses. The red-haired powerhouse he met in the Grand Essence Sea should have been a coincidence. Looking at the cultivators coming in and out of the city gate, Ning Cheng found that most of them took out a jade card. Only a few cultivators took out high-grade starry sky crystals and handed them to the cultivators guarding the city gate. As for permanent essence pills, Ning Cheng didn't see anyone take them out. Ning Cheng took out 100 high-grade starry sky crystals and handed them to the cultivators guarding the city before following the crowd into the city. The essence chi aura in the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City was much richer, but it was still far from being suitable for cultivation. This city was a little different from the cities Ning Cheng had entered before. After entering the city gate, he didn't see a street but a grand public square. Since there were many people in the public square, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out roughly. Apart from the huge makeshift market, the public square also contained a variety of team information. At the edge of this public square, there were two arc-shaped wide roads, which surrounded the public square and extended into the city. Ning Cheng walked into a shop in the makeshift market, squeezed in front of the array formation restriction counter and said to the shop assistant, "Give me a Grand Essence Sea Introduction Jade Strip and a Geographical Jade Strip. By the way, do you have any good cultivation method jade strips?" When the shop assistant heard those words, he quickly put aside the cultivator in front of him and came to Ning Cheng with a smile. "This friend, what grade of cultivation method jade strip do you want? Are there any requirements for spiritual root attributes? The cultivation method jade strips I have here are definitely better than the ones in other places. If you want to buy cultivation method jade strips, then coming to me is the right choice." Ning Cheng naturally didn't want to buy cultivation method jade strips to switch to other cultivation methods. Rather, he wanted to gain some understanding of the cultivation levels in this place. Just like when he first arrived in the Starry Skies, he didn't understand the cultivation levels in the Starry Skies at all. Only after asking Lanya did he have a general impression of it. "I don't care about spiritual root attributes. How far can you cultivate the highest grade cultivation method here?" Ning Cheng hesitated before asking. Hearing Ning Cheng ask about the highest grade cultivation method without caring about spiritual root attributes, the shop assistant's eyes lit up and spoke up with even more politeness. "I have a Dao sculpting cultivation method, the Broken Jade Record. This cultivation method can even help you increase your chances of successfully reaching Dao sculpting." While talking, the shop assistant took out a jade box and 2 jade strips. "These 2 jade strips come with you. Don't brag, who would dare to cultivate the Broken Jade Record? It's a cultivation method that puts you to death first." A disdainful voice came from the crowd, but Ning Cheng heard it clearly. Ning Cheng had heard about Dao sculpting cultivation methods once. Chuan Xinlo had said that he had successfully reached Dao confirming realm, but Ning Ruoqing had ridiculed him for being a Dao sculpting cultivator, or someone who hadn't even reached Dao sculpting realm. Ning Cheng knew that this Dao sculpting cultivation method definitely wasn't the highest grade cultivation method, but he still asked, "How much is this Broken Jade Record?" 110,000 spirit crystals. The shop assistant quickly replied. Was that thing called spirit crystals? Ning Cheng immediately recalled that his celestial river was also a spirit flame. Perhaps this place had something to do with the word spirit. "I don't have any spirit crystals. Can I use this instead?" Ning Cheng said and took out a starry sky crystal. He still had more than 10 million of these things. In fact, What he really wanted to buy were the 2 jade strips that came with it. When the shop assistant saw the crystal Ning Ching took out, his expression immediately turned ugly and spoke up in a cold voice, "Are you going to use this to buy a cultivation method?" "Yeah." Ning Ching hesitated for a moment but still nodded. He originally wanted to take out permanent essence pills, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. At least, he didn't see anyone else using permanent essence pills. The shop assistant put away the jade box containing the cultivation method as quickly as possible and spoke to Ning Cheng in a cold voice, "Sorry, we don't accept such low-level things." Ha ha ha. Bursts of laughter erupted in the store. Someone actually wanted to use low-level crystals to buy a high-level cultivation method. Chapter 844. Give me a jade strip with a map of the Grand Essence ruins. A deep voice came over, immediately suppressing the laughter in the shop. After this sound, Ning Cheng heard the pata, pata footsteps coming into the shop. He was a burly man with messy hair and was dressed in sackcloth. There was a gourd hanging on his waist and an incomparably thick iron rod on his back. One end of the iron rod was a little dark and emitted a strong murderous and bloody aura. It was obvious how many souls had died under this iron rod. What was even stranger was that this person was not wearing shoes. Other people would not make a sound when they walked barefoot, but this person's footsteps were not only loud, but also heavy. Ning Cheng looked at this 2-meter-tall burly man, and immediately thought of Pan Qian. Of course, compared to Pan Qian, this burly man was nothing. Moreover, Ning Cheng couldn't see through this person's cultivation. Moreover, this person seemed to have another kind of power within him, without any celestial essence or spiritual consciousness fluctuations. Alright, 100 low-grade divine crystals. This is my shop's latest map of the Grand Essence ruins. I guarantee that it's more complete than the maps sold elsewhere. Moreover, the price is also the cheapest. The shop assistant seemed to be afraid of this big man and quickly took out a jade strip and handed it to him. Even though it was a deal worth 3 divine crystals, the shop assistant still had a smile on his face. The man nodded, threw a crystal stone on the ground, picked up the jade slip, and walked out with a series of clattering sounds. Ning Cheng saw that this crystal stone looked similar to the crystal stone he had used before. It should be a high-grade crystal stone, which made him realize that a high-grade spirit crystal could be exchanged for 100 low-grade spirit crystals. After the man left, someone in the shop muttered softly, "He's Mo. Did you kill an early-stage eternal martial cultivator with a single slap last time?" Of course it's him. Mo is actually very easy to talk to and doesn't like to cause trouble. He's also very loyal. Last time, that person used his cultivation to bully others and was killed by Mo, someone explained. He just bought a jade strip about the Grand Essence ruins. Does he want to go to the Grand Essence ruins? He's a martial cultivator. What's wrong with being a martial cultivator? He wasn't the only martial cultivator going to the Grand Essence ruins. To go to that kind of place, martial cultivation was not important at all. What was important was luck. If you're unlucky, so what if you're a second-step Dao integration expert? It's also the character for death. Ha, don't joke around. Would a Dao perfection expert go to the Grand Essence ruins? I'm not joking. Such a thing really happened. Ning Cheng did not stay in the shop to listen to the discussions of the other people. Walking out of the shop, he swept his gaze towards the martial cultivator called Mo and followed him. When Ning Cheng saw Mo walk to a corner of the public square, he also quickly walked over. Then, he saw Mo take out a pile of divine crystals and put them on a table. The cultivator sitting at the table put away the pile of divine crystals and gave Mo a jade token. Mo grabbed the jade token and walked to the side to sit down. There were already many cultivators sitting around him. Just now, when Mo took out the spirit crystals, Ning Cheng had already counted them from the side. Mo had taken out at least tens of thousands of spirit crystals. After Mo sat down, a few more people came over to pay the divine crystals and sat beside him. Ning Cheng's gaze fell on a huge array formation screen next to the table. When he glanced over the contents of the array formation screen, he immediately came to an understanding in his heart. After paying the spirit crystals, one would have to follow everyone to a teleportation array and then use that teleportation array to reach the Grand Essence ruins or leave the Boundary Essence Sea from there. Ning Cheng had no idea what kind of place the Grand Essence ruins was. Even if he knew, Ning Cheng didn't have any spirit crystals to go there. Not to mention 10,000 spirit crystals, Ning Cheng couldn't even take out a single spirit crystal. After wandering around the public square for a long time and asking a few cultivators, Ning Cheng gradually learned about this place. This place was the edge of the Grand Essence Realm's edge. The cultivators here generally came to the Grand Essence Sea to search for treasures or to hunt demonic beasts. Because the competition here wasn't very fierce, the safety of cultivators here was more guaranteed compared to other places. Therefore, many cultivators with low cultivation liked to come to this place. The real place to find treasures was the Grand Essence Ruins. The Grand Essence Ruins was the most famous ancient ruin in the Grand Essence realm. This place was boundless, and no one knew if the Grand Essence Ruins had an end or where the end was. After entering the Grand Essence Ruins, one's spiritual consciousness would be restricted. But as for what treasures the Grand Essence Ruins contained, Ning Cheng asked a few cultivators, but they could only say things like high-grade spirit artifacts, ancient rings, and the like. As for how to leave the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City, Ning Cheng also asked a few cultivators. The answer he got was that there was no directional jade strip to leave the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. Even if one wanted to venture into the Grand Essence Sea, one couldn't go too far away from the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. Otherwise, one might not be able to find the way back. Once one got lost in the Grand Essence Sea, one could only wait for death. If a cultivator wanted to leave the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City, they had to save enough spirit crystals and take a special airship to leave. Ning Cheng sighed. From the looks of it, if he wanted to leave this place, he would have to slowly save up spirit crystals. Most likely, some forces controlled the route out of this place, and one couldn't leave without paying spirit crystals. It was just like when he first arrived at the rootless Black City. Back then, people operated a special line business. From the looks of it, it was a stroke of luck that he met a cultivator and found the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. However, if he wanted to earn spirit crystals, he didn't need to venture into the Grand Essence Sea. He could help people refine weapons here. As long as he set up a stall in the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City's public square, spirit crystals would definitely roll in. Ning Cheng had just set up an artifact crafting stall in a corner of the public square when two cultivators stopped him. "Friend, you should have just arrived here, right? You're not allowed to set up stalls here. It's the first time, but if you find out about it a second time, I'm afraid you'll be taken away." An early-stage life and death cultivator pointed to Ning Cheng's stall and said. "Why?" Ning Cheng asked in doubt. Was there a limit to setting up stalls here? The cultivator looked at Ning Cheng and said with some helplessness, "You should buy a Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City's residential profile first." "Forget it, I don't think you have any spirit crystals on you. I'll just give you one." After the cultivator finished, he took out a jade strip and handed it to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness casually swept through it and immediately understood what it meant. In the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City, one needed qualifications to set up an artifact crafting or alchemy stall. This qualification was issued by the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City's artifact crafting or alchemy guilds. The qualification certificate had a clear division of grades, indicating the grade of artifact crafting qualifications one had. However, to go to such guilds for the artifact crafting or alchemy qualifications, one would need a lot of spirit crystals. "I see." Ning Cheng put away his artifact crafting stall. He really wanted to sell a space crystal in exchange for spirit crystals. But reason told him that he couldn't do that with his current strength. "Ning Cheng." At this moment, a surprised voice sounded from the side. Ning Cheng looked up and saw a pretty face. He responded with a slight surprise, "Nalan Rushue, why are you here?" He saw two men and a woman beside Nalan Rushue. Presumably, the four of them were in the same group. It's really you. Nalan Rushue felt even more surprised after confirming that it was Ning Cheng. She didn't seem to notice Ning Cheng's calm tone. She didn't feel any joy from meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Junior apprentice Sister Rushue, who is this? A brown-robed man standing next to Nalan Rushue asked with a frown. It's an acquaintance. Senior apprentice Brother Tao, Senior apprentice Brother Yu, Senior apprentice Sister Cyan, you can go to the merchant house first. I'll have a few words with Senior apprentice Brother Ning first. Nalan Rushue quickly spoke up, unable to restrain the joy in her eyes. The brown-robed man frowned slightly, but soon smiled and said, Junior apprentice Sister Rushue, don't be so polite. Your friend is also our friend. Why don't we all go to the restaurant and have a seat? Also, invite your friend over. I'll be the host this time. Nalan Rushue saw Ning Cheng put away the stall and understood that Ning Cheng didn't have many spirit crystals on him. After hearing this, she quickly looked at Ning Cheng and asked, Senior apprentice Brother Ning Cheng, why don't we go and have a seat together? Senior apprentice Brother Tao Xing, Senior apprentice Brother Yu Cheng, and Senior apprentice Sister Li Cyan are all my friends. Why don't you join us in the future? That way, everyone can take care of each other. No need. You guys go ahead. I'll be leaving. Ning Cheng put the things into his ring and turned to leave. Although Nalan Rushue had gone to find him to apologize to him back in the Rainbow Fall Sword sect. Although he didn't care about the past, he never thought about becoming friends with people like Nalan Rushue. Nalan Rushue only had a late-stage Heaven's Mandate cultivation, while Tao Xing and Yu Cheng were at the middle stage and late-stage Heaven-seeded realm respectively. Even Li Cyan was at the early-stage Heaven-seeded realm. To be honest, if Ning Cheng had a cultivation in the Heaven's Mandate realm, he would never team up with 3 cultivators with much higher cultivation than him. Seeing Ning Cheng turn around to leave, Nalan Rushue's eyes flashed with sadness. But she still called out, Senior apprentice Brother Ning, do you know that Senior apprentice Sister Yan Ji is looking for you? Yan Ji? Ning Cheng suddenly stopped and asked with a happy expression, did you see Yan Ji? Where is she? Nalan Rushue on seeing Ning Cheng change so quickly felt even more sad in her heart. She hesitated for a moment before speaking, I'll tell you about it later, or... Ning Cheng immediately understood that Nalan Rushue wanted to talk to him alone. He was just about to ask Nalan Rushue to leave with him when the brown-robed cultivator named Tao Xing spoke up again, Junior apprentice Sister Rushue, why don't we go to the S&C restaurant together? Nalan Rushue looked at Ning Cheng with some embarrassment. Her eyes clearly showed that she wanted to invite Ning Cheng to go together. Ning Cheng felt a little strange in his heart. He knew a bit about Nalan Rushue's temperament. She didn't like to have anything to do with male cultivators, but he didn't expect her to care about the words of that male cultivator named Tao Xing. Ning Cheng was eager to know Yan Ji's whereabouts and didn't hesitate, okay, let's go together. Hearing Ning Cheng agree, Nalan Rushue felt overjoyed. Tao Xing also spoke up to Ning Cheng, Junior apprentice Brother Ning, you don't have to restrain yourself. You'll get used to it after staying here for a long time. Everyone can form a team and take care of each other. Ning Cheng didn't answer the brown-robed cultivator's words. He didn't have much of a good impression of this Tao Xing. It was just an intuition. Chapter 845. Walking into the S&C restaurant, Ning Cheng almost wanted to stay here and cultivate. From the moment he arrived at this place, the surrounding essence qi was very thin. Only when he entered this restaurant did he feel slightly denser primordial qi. The restaurant was overflowing with a fragrant aroma. Ning Cheng looked at the cultivators eating heartily, and once again felt a pang of hunger. Plate after plate of steaming hot and fragrant sea demonic beast meat, as well as some spirit fruits and spirit herbs cooked by various means, made one want to eat a meal just by looking at it. It could be seen that the chefs in this restaurant were all very skilled. Ning Cheng rubbed his nose, he did not know how long it had been since he last went to a restaurant to eat. Thinking of coming to a restaurant to eat, he could not help but think of Tian Mu Wan. If there was anyone he would go to a restaurant with the most, it would definitely be Tian Mu Wan. However, at that time, he did not have a big wallet, so he took Tian Mu Wan out to eat at a small restaurant. Thinking till here, Ning Qing once again gave a dark sigh. How could a small misunderstanding cause Tian Mu Wan to change so much? Tian Mu Wan, who was willing to accompany him to the tiny restaurant to eat, had also disappeared. As soon as the five of them stepped into the hotel, the waiter of the restaurant welcomed them. Please come in. There are still a few private rooms available. Would you like to? Without waiting for the waiter to finish, Li Xian waved her hand and said, the few of us just want to eat something. We don't need a private room. Seeing that Tao Xing did not raise any objections, Ning Qing knew that this person did not seem to be a rich person. After the five of them sat down, the waiter brought over the menu. As Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the menu, he couldn't help but feel shocked in his heart. The prices of the food here were truly high. Each dish cost a dozen or so spirit crystals, while the slightly better ones cost a few hundred spirit crystals. Some even cost thousands or tens of thousands of spirit crystals. Moreover, Ning Qing found that these were all high-rank spirit crystals. Spirit fried ground eagle tongue, roasted starless flower rabbit paw, stewed phoenix fairy sprout. After Tao Xing ordered more than a dozen dishes, he handed the menu to Nalan Rushua, junior apprentice sister Rushua. You can also order a few. Nalan Rushua quickly waved her hand. No need. Senior apprentice brother Tao helped me and even invited us to eat here. I feel very grateful in my heart. Besides, I've never been to this place before. I'll just eat whatever I want. Nalan Rushua wasn't lying. S&C restaurants' prices were just too high. In the past, she and Yen Ji would at most eat in some small restaurants, and would never come to this kind of place. Tao Xing, on seeing Nalan Rushua speak in such a manner, also politely asked Ning Cheng. Seeing that he did not even hand over the menu, Ning Cheng knew that he was just pretending to be polite. No, I don't care much about eating. Ning Cheng flatly refused. Tao Xing's eyes flashed with a trace of unhappiness. In his view, since Ning Cheng and Nalan Rushua were friends, then his cultivation would obviously not be too high. But now Ning Cheng did not even address him respectfully, and even spoke in such an ordinary tone. After letting Yu Cheng and Li Xian order a few more dishes, the waiter of the restaurant took the menu away. Ning Cheng had already noticed that the dishes that Tao Xing had ordered were all relatively common. The most expensive dishes only cost a little more than 100 divinity crystals, and all the dishes they ordered added up to less than 1,000 divinity crystals. The waiter served the dishes very quickly. They indeed looked, smelled, and tasted great. Moreover, streams of dense essence energy were released. Even without eating it, one could tell that these things could not only fill one's stomach, but also increase one's cultivation. Senior apprentice brother Ning, you eat. Nalan Rushua remembered to call out to Ning Cheng. Tao Xing also spoke up with a smile. That's right, junior apprentice brother Ning does not need to be so polite. You've never eaten here before, right? It was very difficult for loose cultivators to come here for a meal. Ordinary cultivators simply could not afford the prices here. This plate of roasted starless flower rabbit paw is the most expensive. Junior martial sister Rushua and junior martial sister Shuyan are women, so they should eat more. We can eat something else. Ning Cheng was just about to pick up a piece of roasted starless flower rabbit paw, but when he heard Tao Xing's words, he immediately felt unhappy in his heart. It was as if he was living off a woman. She clearly saw that he was about to make a move on the roasted starless flower rabbit, yet she still said such meaningless words. Waiter, come over here. Ning Cheng put down the fork in his hand, and called the waiter over. Is there anything else you need? The waiter came very quickly. Ning Cheng took out a pot of wine and handed it to the waiter before saying, Go, and show your boss how many spirit crystals this pot can be exchanged for. Okay. The waiter quickly picked up the pot of wine and left. Seeing Ning Cheng not eating, Nalan Rushua felt a little embarrassed. She sat there, not knowing if she should eat or not. Junior martial sister Rushua, don't stand on ceremony. call your friend to eat. Tao Xing and the others had already started. After a while, the waiter came over with a middle-aged male cultivator. This Tao friend, is that pot of wine yours? The middle-aged male cultivator came up to Ning Cheng and spoke with cupped fists, speaking in a very polite tone. Ning Cheng nodded, yes, it's mine. My friend gave me this pot of wine. I've kept it for many years, but I've never been willing to drink it. Today, I happened to fancy a few dishes in your restaurant and wanted to taste them, so I took it out. Hearing Ning Cheng's words, the middle-aged male cultivator's face showed some disappointment. Apparently, Ning Cheng meant that he only had this pot. But he still took out a storage bag and handed it to Ning Cheng. This is 10,000 high-rank spirit crystals. We can also give you 5 dishes, as long as they don't exceed 10,000 spirit crystals. Ning Cheng looked at this male cultivator and understood that he had no intention of returning the pot of none to depend on wine. But since Ning Cheng had already taken it out, he had no intention of taking it back. This was a genuine top-grade none to depend on wine, and he still had more than half a barrel in his ring. Of course, help me add a few more dishes. Earth Fire Stewed Golden Oxtail, Spirit Spring Shaving Rain Pomegranate. Ning Cheng ordered 5 dishes in one go, and even the cheapest one cost more than 1,000 spirit crystals. These 5 dishes cost nearly 10,000 spirit crystals. Looking at Tao Xing's dumbfounded look, Nalan Rushue pursed her lips. Ning Cheng was still the same Ning Cheng. Even after so many years, his character hadn't changed at all. The 5 dishes were quickly served, and Ning Cheng grabbed the fork. You can eat now. Ning Cheng put a piece of Spirit Spring Shaving Rain Pomegranate into his mouth, and the rich spirit qi seeped in. Ning Cheng sighed while refining it. No wonder so many people were willing to come here to eat. Not only did it fill his stomach, but it also increased his cultivation. After this meal, he could finally break through to the middle stage Eternal Realm. When Tao Xing saw Ning Cheng serving several dishes that were more than 10 times the price of his, he didn't continue to look for trouble. Although he felt unhappy about it, he didn't say anything about which dishes couldn't be eaten. Although the few of them wanted to taste the dishes that cost more than 1,000 spirit crystals, Ning Cheng didn't even put a fork on the dishes ordered by Tao Xing's trio. The 3 of them also felt embarrassed to eat Ning Cheng's dishes. Nalan Rushue kept her head down and only ate a few mouthfuls of Spirit Spring Shaving Rain Pomegranate. She didn't touch the other plates at all. Tao Xing wanted to continue eating with Nalan Rushue, but unfortunately, the quality of the dishes he ordered was much worse than Ning Cheng's. Finally, after finishing the meal, Tao Xing breathed in a sigh of relief. After eating these things, Ning Cheng felt that he was about to break through the early stage Eternal Realm and advance to the middle stage Eternal Realm. He decided to find a place to break through his cultivation immediately after asking Nalan Rushue. Junior apprentice brother Ning, what kind of wine was that? It's actually worth 20,000 spirit crystals. After the waiter took away the things, the late-stage heaven-seated Yuqing finally couldn't help but ask. It was a gift from a friend. I didn't expect it to be so valuable. After Ning Cheng gave an irrelevant answer, he stood up and looked at Nalan Rushue. Without waiting for Nalan Rushue to stand up, Tao Xing quickly said, Junior apprentice brother Ning, we're going to form a team to go to Scarlet Branch Island in 3 days. I heard that someone found wood origin crystals there. Ning Cheng initially had no interest in forming a team with these people, but when he heard about wood origin crystals, he immediately felt tempted. Wood origin crystals were a good thing for him. Moreover, the best treasure for the advancement of the underworld Crow Ghost Rot Tan was wood origin crystals. Nalan Rushue thought that Ning Cheng would definitely refuse, but she heard Ning Cheng reply, okay, then in 3 days, I'll form a team with you to go to Scarlet Branch Island. I'll take my leave first. Senior apprentice brother Tao, senior apprentice brother Yu, senior apprentice sister Cyan, senior apprentice brother Ning and I are going out to take care of some things. I'll come to you later. When Nalan Rushue saw Ning Cheng go out, she quickly stood up and said a few words before following Ning Cheng out of the S&C restaurant. Tao Xing looked at Ning Cheng's back and said thoughtfully, "This person can take out 20,000 spirit crystals worth of wine and squander it like this. It looks like he's not simple." Yu Qing showed a slight smile. "Whether he's simple or not, we'll know in a few days." Nalan Rushue took Ning Cheng around the public square and entered the Boundary Essence Spirit Sea City. The two of them walked for more than 2 hours before they arrived at a simple and crude abode. "This is where Senior Apprentice Sister Yan Ji and I lived. After Senior Apprentice Sister Yan Ji left, I lived here alone." Nalan Rushue led Ning Cheng to one of the caves and took out a jade card to open the cave's defensive restrictions. After walking through the cave's restrictions, Ning Cheng understood why Nalan Rushue wanted to form a team with others. The spirit qi in this place was much scarcer than the Boundary Essence restaurant. Cultivating in this place was only slightly better than cultivating on the street. The biggest use of this place wasn't for cultivation but for providing a place to live. The cave couldn't be any simpler. The entrance to the cave only had an open space with a radius of less than 3 feet, with a few strands of weeds growing sparsely in the open space. Walking into the cave, they found only 2 rooms inside. After taking Ning Cheng to her room and sitting down, Nalan Rushue said, "After Yan Ji and I came here from the Thorn-Tooth Lake's teleportation array, we have been cultivating here." "Wait." Ning Cheng interrupted Nalan Rushue, "You said that you and Yan Ji came from the teleportation array under the Thorn-Tooth Lake?" When Nalan Rushue heard Ning Cheng's words, she understood that Ning Cheng also knew about the teleportation array. She quickly told him everything that had happened. She talked about it until a year ago, when Yan Ji broke through the shackles of Heaven's Mandate Realm and advanced to the Heaven-seated realm. After that, she went to the Grand Essence Ruins. After listening to Nalan Rushue's words, Ning Cheng frowned and asked, "Since Yan Ji advanced to the Heaven-seated realm, why didn't she go back from the original teleportation array? Instead, she went to the Grand Essence Ruins?"